We'll start with the public hearing, the second reading of the bylaw, noise bylaw number 9. I'll put my glasses on, maybe I can read better. I have an excuse when I don't have my glasses. Alain, you want to speak on that?
Sure.
Okay.
This is not a document that you haven't seen before. This is obviously the second reading of the noise bylaw. We have a subcommittee of council that has been going through bylaws and policies that relate to council, and this was one that was identified as priority to change the old noise bylaw and amend it for the new. We did get some comments on this. While there may not be people here tonight to make comments, there were some comments received via email. We received an email from a concerned farmer around some of the provisions around noise and some of the time frames that we have under this noise bylaw, which I believe are between the hours of 7 and 9 or 7 to 11, depending on what time of the weekday or weekend that it is. So in this particular instance, there's a mink farmer that receives feed or other stock very early in the morning and is required obviously for the execution of their work. And so what we did was we re-examined some of the provincial legislation around farm and farming, and in fact the farming legislation, provincial legislation, is very clear and protects farms in terms of their day-to-day activities. And so what that really means for you is we will probably look to add a provision in this bylaw that makes reference to the Farming Act, Fur Farm or Farming, it's actually not Fur Farm, it's Farming Act, that has certain protections around farming for for farmers that are well defined in the legislation. And there's really nothing that we can do municipally to supersede that. So any provincial legislation would supersede municipal bylaw. And so rather than just assume that that is going to happen and people know that, we might add a provision in the bylaw that shows very clearly that the farming legislation would supersede any provision here. The other item that had been identified, and perhaps indirectly through complaints, is that there was recently some audible bird scare devices that have been introduced in the community that have caused a certain, I guess, nuisance in an area. And so we had some provisions around that in the old noise bylaw that said within 1,000 feet, that outside of 1,000 feet it would be okay, but inside that 1,000 feet zone there were restrictions around when that occasional bang could occur. So those two items had been raised and could in fact modify this document. Uncertain. I don't think adding any sort of notwithstanding clauses around the farming legislation would be considered a major change, because you're basically informing the reader that there's another legislation in play. However, if you wish to make a change on the or deal with the bird scare device, then there would be a potential change.
Okay.
Sorry, so we do have somebody that might be interested in speaking on this. So
I'm not sure, is there somebody from the public that wants to speak on the noise bylaw?
Just a couple of points. My name is Shirley D'Entremont. Just reading over the document this morning, and some of the key points that I had made earlier have been addressed. One of the points that I feel is not high enough, of course, is the fines, $200, not less than $200, and not more than $2,000. I feel that a lot of these companies, especially not residents per se, but corporations, would opt to pay the fine instead of compliance. Normal fee fine for a highway infraction is more than $200. And $2,000, I feel, you would not be obliged to reach that figure, I take it, that is the maximum. So you could raise that maximum, you would still have the ability to incur a fine pending on not necessarily the maximum. Am I correct in that?
Mhm.
Then rather than having to redo this again in a few years, my suggestion would be that we raise both of them and that fines incurred fall into those gaps. So certainly for me, I would say no less than 500, just to try and keep people from actually preferring to pay the fine rather than compliance. And the 2,000, I would go as far as 5,000 really, because you have the ability to go in that range. The other point that I wanted to ask is, how is this going to be enforced? On who will be making sure that these noise bylaws are being kept within the bylaw itself?
I can
Yeah,
answer
go
that if
ahead.
you wish.
Yeah.
The Public Works Department in the municipality of Argyle will be charged with the responsibility of enforcing. We have enforcement officers that we have on staff for various enforcement issues would likely be handled inside this organization. Typically what we would do with this bylaw or any other would be based on a complaint basis. So while if there was obviously an infraction that we noted we would obviously deal with that, but I think in reality what typically happens is it's a complaint process that would trigger a review.
So you would actually either physically visit this company or person?
Yes.
And inquire. So how would you, for example, if there was a negative response? No, that didn't happen. What then?
Well, I think that this bylaw, as any bylaw, has its challenges in terms of enforcement. And so if you're not catching them in the act of making that noise, it can be problematic. There's no question about that. So I think that we would be basing ourselves on situations where we would have more than one complaint or multiple complaints in a situation. It would be difficult for a business to deny that happened when you had 2 or 3 observers. But from an enforcement perspective, this bylaw will be challenging. There's no question about that, but we want to make sure that there are, I guess, stronger provisions than there were in the past. And I think this is stronger, but I guess it doesn't. From an enforceability perspective, we will have our challenges for sure.
And just reviewing from other municipalities who do have a bylaw in place, what challenges have they had?
Well, it depends on the nature of their bylaw. Some noise bylaws actually have noise capturing devices. They actually measure decibels. We find that to be much more problematic. That would actually increase the problems of enforcement, because you literally have to measure at the time that it's occurring. I think a lot of municipalities moved away from that as a way to deal with noise. Obviously, with this bylaw, we want to try to find a balance between regular business, regular operations of business, and something that is outside the ordinary, that's actually offensive or intrusive to some of the residents. So, with every bylaw, you try to find that balance. But obviously, the enforcement issues would be very much the same in terms of, are you catching them in the act of performing a noise that is outside of or that is being specifically addressed as a problem in the bylaw.
And my last comment is really just probably a typo on the first page, item 2.6. You have included the amplified telephone or other device, and on the last page, part 2, number 5. The operation of any public address system, the telephone, amplified telephone is not repeated there.
I'm sorry, what was the second area?
The second part,
Where it's not included, under what
It's
provision?
part 2, last page, number 5, the operation of any
Oh.
public address system. On page 1.6, the amplified telephone is included, and on this one, it is not included, which is probably,
Yeah, it should be included.
yeah. And that's all, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shirley.
Amplified telephone.
Yeah. Okay, we've noted those. Let's go back to the committee now.
Unless there's other comments.
So if there's other changes that need to be made I mean, I think the change to add amplified telephone on part 2, section 5 is certainly one that can be easily made, that could be made tonight. But the question around fees is something that perhaps council wishes to discuss. And you could do that one of two ways. You could actually take the fee out of the bylaw and do it by policy as well, which would make it actually an easier way to adjust it. In a lot of bylaws, they have a policy that would allow you to amend the fees in a much more efficient way. We do
Yes.
have bylaws that have penalties for $10 or $15. Well, maybe in 1981 that was a good number, but in 2013 that number should be
Yeah.
different. So you could possibly do that by policy. You could change the fee you have here, or you could remain. There's no question that the fee structure can be widened. Shirley's comments are valid. They can be widened. Your bottom fee can be risen. So those are all very valid points for your consideration.
When you say fee,
The penalty, yes.
Has there been any other, I guess, questions on the fees, or is Shirley the only one that's brought it up? Like, there has been 50 phone calls on putting the fees up.
No.
But this is the first you've heard about the fee.
Yes, the wider the fee range, the more, I guess, opportunity you have from an enforcement perspective to enforce the fee. Ultimately, the fee has to be reasonable under the circumstances. And so if it's ever challenged by the person paying, those facts would come into play in any sort of challenge.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, coming back to the penalties or the fees, I kind of like the numbers because, you know, if we were to, if someone has an infraction, you know, and if it's $500 the first time, well, or 200, if it was 200, well, you know, maybe if it started with 500 and then went up, it would be quite a better deterrent for the next time because, you know, often these problems, you know, occur more than once. We know that by experience. So.
The penalty structure is a good discussion. You could probably in the bylaw be a bit more specific around first offense, second offense, and third offense. We did that with the dog bylaw. I think that makes it very clear that you know, you're a repeat offender and that the cost would escalate. So you could consider that as well. And
Okay.
the amounts you could, you know, that would be
Yeah.
entirely up to council. So in terms of approval for these changes, we're now getting into a zone where the changes might be less than just minor changes. I guess maybe I'll ask the solicitor the question in terms of, you know, how many changes could be made if council was looking to make changes tonight. How many would-
Nothing that's overly substantive. I don't think there's a number necessarily. And so far, what you've been discussing is not overly, except, you know, the shifting of the penalty provisions from the bylaw itself to the policy provision. That's a little bit more substantive, but I mean, if nobody objects, I don't see that as being defeatist of the bylaw itself at all.
Sorry.
But
so-
I think it would be wise to perhaps send that back to committee. I mean, if that were the wish, it wouldn't be an unwise choice. Let me put it that way. But if nonetheless you want to pass this bylaw ASAP, it won't defeat it. It won't be a detrimental to the passing of that bylaw.
I should note for clarity that Mr. Chair, that the members of the committee are all present here. So there are no voting members outside of who is actually here. So if that committee was comfortable, then we could certainly do that today.
Yeah. Okay. So that,
I guess in my view, would be that I prefer to go to committee again, where there's money involved and dollar changes, if that was the wish. I'd rather see the committee look at it again. That's just my 10 cents worth. If it wasn't for money involved, I'd say, just a few words here and there.
thank you. Okay.
So just another question on clarity for the solicitor, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, yeah.
Just one more question around, if the decision of council is to go back to committee to re-examine the fee structure, what would be required in terms of public engagement on the second reading? Would there be another second?
I don't think so, no. No, just comes back to council for consideration
For
based on, because you've had your second reading.
Yeah.
It's being done right now.
And we would certainly, as council, be assured that anyone who showed up at this meeting would be informed of the changes that were made
Absolutely.
to the bylaw.
Absolutely. It's going to be done in a public manner regardless,
Yeah.
but that would be prudent in the circumstances.
So in theory, it could be, if we're not prepared today, we could do it at the committee of the whole at the end of September for ratification at council in October.
Or, yeah, committee of the whole, though, it's really not effective until it's passed
Yeah.
at the next council meeting.
Yeah.
Preferable to do it at the next council meeting. Since you're asking.
Well, I just want to make sure council
Yeah.
is aware
Yeah.
of that process.
I think since you're asking, I have to say that it's the council meeting
Yeah.
that is the arbiter of that one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
So just, Mr. Chair, any sort of
Yes.
decision on the changes or amendments would be done in regular council?
Yes.
So we've been doing a lot of talking inside
Yes,
the
yeah.
hearing, but any sort of changes, approvals, if any, would be done in
I
the
think
regular
when
council.
before
So
we
we
approve
can-
the agenda, maybe we should add it to the agenda
Absolutely,
for tonight, yes.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you for your time.
thank you. So we'll now call the meeting to order. And looking for approval of the agenda, but we have a couple of things to add, I think, Alain. One item we have to, is the public hearing.
It would be, yeah, approval, or I guess approval of noise bylaw would be 9H.
9H, yeah. 9A,
For consideration.
consideration, yeah.
Consideration of noise bylaw, thank you.
And is there something else that we,
October,
oh, our next month's regular council meeting. It falls on election day.
and
Dan, you'll be here.
the other item, item may in fact come out of one of the presentations. So it would be
Yes.
9J.
Oh, yes,
um,
yeah,
Marketing request.
9J.
9I or for the next council meeting?
Yeah, 9I, October regular council meeting. And 9J.
Or
9J would be marketing request.
does it?
Okay. Okay. So can we have approval of the agenda as amended,
So moved.
unless somebody else has something? Motion's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Conflict of interest declaration. Is there anybody around the table that has a conflict with any of the items? Yes.
I would like to declare a conflict with the Yarmouth Acadian Shores Tourism Association presentation. I'm, I guess, under contract with them. I do living wharves,
Yep,
so I'd like to
okay.
declare that.
Thank you. And one thing I forgot, I guess, we had regrets from Councillor Murphy tonight, so we should add that also in the minutes. Yes,
More maybe a question to Rael. As a tourism operator, if the item 9J does come to table, should I declare a conflict of interest there? Or
yes,
Under the marketing.
under the marketing?
marketing, tourism.
As a tourism operator in
I-
Southwest Nova, I guess it could indirectly benefit me.
Are you a shareholder
No.
in any of that operation?
No.
The benefit that you would get is available to the remainder of those in the
Correct.
community in the same manner, and you would not be voting money to your particular operation. So, in the pure sense of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, perhaps not. While I've got the table, perhaps not even Councillor Noddle would have a conflict in that regard either, all necessarily, but more so in your regard. Thinking about it, yeah, you're working for Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I have a contract with them.
I retract that.
I'm not an employee, I have a
Yeah, you have
contract
a
with them.
contract, I retract that, but you don't have a contract.
No, sir.
Then, yeah, no, so you don't have a conflict of interest per se.
Okay,
Sure.
Absolutely.
thank you.
We'll do it.
Yeah, right over on the side of talking.
Yep. All right. Presentations, the next item. Waste check, my smartphone app. Amy Hillyard.
Gus
And-
is here
and
as
Gus.
well. He's gonna do a little overview of waste check before we
Okay.
do the demo.
Yep.
Good evening, thank you, Mr. Warden. First of all, let me say how grateful I am for a few moments of your time tonight. I know you guys have a very, very busy thing to do. Very nice, Real.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Down the road, well done.
I know you guys have a lot of important work to do, so we're going to try and be very, very brief tonight. But we want to give you a little background, maybe of benefit to some of the newer councillors, maybe even just to remind some of the older councillors.
Older, right.
Seasoned, not older, pardon me. Anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about who WasteCheck is and what WasteCheck does. And we like to call ourselves Region 7 because that's who we are, but we call ourselves small and mighty. And I'm hoping by the time we get to the end of the presentation tonight, you'll know why we say that. Forgive me if I can't work the technology here, but okay. So whenever you talk about where you are and where you want to go and what you've done, it's good to look back for a minute on where you've come from. So we're going to start tonight with a very brief overview of the history of solid waste in Nova Scotia, and quite honestly, it's not that pretty. In the early 70s, we had hundreds of disposal sites in this province. In 1989, Nova Scotians produced 740 kilograms of garbage per person per year. And as late as 1996, we still had 20 open burning sites in this province. But in 1995, the province of Nova Scotia did something very innovative. They introduced a solid waste strategy. And that strategy had four main goals, one of which was they were going to reduce the amount of waste by 50% by the year 2000. They were looking to increase disposal standards. They wanted to promote regional cooperation, and we're a good study in that here. And they wanted to generate some economic opportunities. Backwards. I told you I couldn't work the technology. So what did all that mean to the municipalities? Well, it meant you needed facilities and infrastructure. Education was going to become a big part of your lives with regard to solid waste. And eventually you would need enforcement. So in terms of infrastructure, some of the facility locations, I'm sure you're all familiar with them because you have a financial interest in them. So we won't dwell on those. One of the things that was very unique about the solid waste strategy in 1995, and something that no other jurisdiction did, was they actually banned material from landfill. They made it illegal to put some things into a landfill. And since 1996, things like corrugated cardboard and newsprint, it's been illegal in the province of Nova Scotia to put those in the landfill. I'm not saying it doesn't still happen a little bit, but the fact that they made it illegal was the big catalyst that drove so much change. And it's part of the reason why Nova Scotia is a world leader today. So we have a new goal now. I talked about under the original 95 strategy, they wanted to reduce the amount of waste by 50% by the year 2000. Well, that's changed now. The goal now is they want to reach a disposal target. They want to be 300 kilograms per person per year by the 2015. And again, it's good to remember that 740 odd number when we started this process. So that's quite a change. And right now, the provincial average is 394 kilograms per person per year. So that's 349 kilograms of garbage for every man, woman, and child in this province. So something else to talk about when we say disposal. Some areas you'll hear them talking about their disposal number. Well, they're only talking about their residential disposal number. When we talk about disposal in Nova Scotia, we mean everything. So it's not just what's collected at your curbside, but it's also what comes from all the businesses, industry, construction, demolition, all that's included in that number. Waste management regions, part of that 95 strategy, broke the province up into 7 waste management regions. We're number 7. We go by WasteCheck. The actual name of the region in the original legislation was the Western Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority. So we thought something a little catchier like WasteCheck might be easier for people to say. It's made up of the 6 municipal units in Digby and Yarmouth counties, and we've got a population of about 44,000 people. We have a board that some of you well know, but it's made up of 2 voting members from each of our 6 municipal units, and we answer to them and ultimately to you. A little bit just on the financial end of things. Typically, in a given year, our budget's about $600,000, but only this year, only $50,000 of that is coming from the 6 units. That's the total contribution from all 6. The rest of the money comes largely through the Resource Recovery Fund Board, which was also created in that 1995 legislation. They're the folks that administer the deposit refund system. You pay your dime and get your nickel back when you take the pop bottle back. So a big chunk of our funding comes through them, and again, the rest comes from our municipal partners. So no matter where you live in our region, the pickup might change a little bit, but it should look something like this. We've got a clear bag program for garbage that we've had for many years. 2 streams for blue bags and green cart for collection of your organics. Each municipal unit has their own collection contract, but the ingredients look the same. IC&I sector, or what we call the commercial, industrial, commercial, institutional sector, they're required to use the same 4 waste separation streams. Now, obviously, compactors might work better for them than clear bags, but ultimately they have to follow the same rules in terms of what they're allowed to put in the recycling and in the garbage. This is the waste separation guide that explains in a nutshell where everything goes. I'm guessing you're all familiar with that too. Education is a big part of what WasteCheck does. We do event greening, we do public displays at festivals and exhibitions, presentations to community groups. You can see the picture there of Mr. Greenbin hanging out in one of the local parades. I think that one actually might have been in Argo. No, Digby. Damn. I don't have my glasses on. We do business visits, we do curbside education with the residents, and we also do a lot of community outreach as well. This is interesting because we've made some progress in terms of stopping things from going to landfill, and I referenced the bans, that the fact that it's illegal to put things like organics and paper in the landfill. Even now, all these years into the program, you can see that the biggest component's still going to landfill. There's organic material that should be in a green cart. There's a lot of plastic there, and there's also a lot of paper there that should be being recycled. We're looking at 26% organics from the commercial sector and 34% from residential. So, you know, we've made a lot of strides, but there's still plenty of room to go.
Gus, on that 26% because of the meeting Monday, is there a lot of clothing and stuff like that and you call that organic?
No, textiles is actually a separate category altogether.
It is a separate category.
Yeah, it's one of the big ones too, but
Yeah.
it's separate from that. I mentioned the Clear Bag program. We provide stickers to your haulers to help educate the residents. And we ask them to send a form back, that's a copy of the form, back to us, and we try as much as possible to follow up with every resident. So if your waste gets rejected and that information is sent to us, then there's a good chance one of our educators is going to try and come out and find you and talk to you at your doorstep to let you know what went wrong. Same thing for blue bags. Again, we ask the haulers if they reject to report that to us, and we'll try and follow up with an educational visit. We also do transfer station inspections, which is good for checking not just on how residential collection is going, but also on how the businesses are doing as well. And it's just sort of like a snapshot of what's happening. We have a very set protocol we follow when doing this, and again, everything's documented. Some of our ongoing initiatives, we have a Business of the Month program that you may have heard or seen some of the advertisements from some of the winners. We're just continuing to do education. We're trying to work on increased load inspections at the transfer stations this year. Obviously, we still do the green cart delivery and repair, and we also have something we call Club 300. Our business of the month is pretty obvious. If you're a business and you're doing something really good, then we can recognize you for that. But we wanted something that would recognize individuals or nonprofit organizations or community groups when they went above and beyond the call of duty to try and help us achieve our goals. So that's where the Club 300 came from. And again, it's in that reference to that provincial target of 300 kilograms per person per year. Again, increased curbside education. We also do good job stickers too. When we're out doing curbside stuff, and if we see that you did a really good job of putting your waste out, then we might leave you a good job sticker. If you fill out the little tab on the bottom, or you can enter through the website, you get your name gets put in for a draw for a little prize. We've had landlord workshops. We have another hauler information session come up. We'd like to coming up in later this month. The 20th. We like to meet with the haulers on a regular basis just to make sure that they know everything that's going on and we know what their problems are. You may have noticed that our website now is completely available in French as well. For a while it was just available in English, but now you can choose whether you want it in English or French. I love this slide because it talks about waste and it compares residential and IC&I. And if you see the red there is residential waste, the sort of bluey purple is the IC&I. If you look down in 2007, you see we had some pretty big numbers there. Wow. 2008, you can see a very dramatic drop in residential waste. 2008 was the year we introduced clear bags for garbage. And the impact was immediate and long-lasting. Almost immediately, we saw, I think it was around a 25% drop in garbage. We saw our recycling go up, our organics go up. It was like magic. It just happened just like that. And it stayed, because you can see the residential is still fairly constant. Now, the effect wasn't quite as dramatic in the IC&I sector, but you can see they're starting to get there. They're coming down in terms of their volume. So we had a vision, the Waste Check Board, that they wanted to be leaders in waste management in Nova Scotia. And this was at a time that already Nova Scotia was starting to become known as a world leader in waste. We wanted to be the leaders in Nova Scotia. So in the fall of 2009, we had a very comprehensive strategic planning process that instead of us going away and huddling in a room and putting together a document and bringing it back and saying, this is our strategic plan, we wanted something that would have buy-in largely from that IC&I sector, because that was the area the target we needed to reach. So we actually, we called upon leaders in the business community to come in and work with us to help us make our strategic plan. And we selected 10 different sectors, and we had a representative from each of those sectors who sat on our committee. And then we went out and we had sector meetings in all those different sectors to try and draw information in. And the end result was a very successful plan, but it was a plan that was created through consultation. It wasn't us dictating this is the strategic plan. It was through consultation. We also had a facilitator who helped. Ongoingly, we keep in touch with that committee. One of the things we wanted to be different about is we wanted to be a working document, because the other mistake that some organizations make is they'll create a really nice strategic plan, but then they put it on a shelf and they forget about it. We had a requirement that each year, as part of our actual budgeting procedure, budgeting process, we had to do an action plan for that year, drawing from our strategic plan, and that had to be presented as part of our budget process before we could get our budgets approved for Waste Check. So it kept it as a living document that would be constantly updated. So that annual action plan and priorities were presented to the board. Again, it was a 3-year plan that was supposed to take us from 2010 to 2013. And now we're getting into the fall of 2013. We're getting ready to forge forward with another 3-year plan. So we've actually made arrangements. We're bringing our committee back together to plan for the next 3 years. Mentioned the Club 300 earlier. Shouldn't go on about that again. This is some of their Club 300 inductees. Might be a name or two there you might recognize. Maybe that one on the bottom. I mentioned the Business of the Month award. And this is something that has been really, really successful, because it's not just a pat on the back, good job, Gary Nickerson, you're our Business of the Month. This is something that if you're running a small business, there's a real financial reward here. There's a lot of media attention. There's radio ads, there's print ads, it's on the website. It's an actual dollar value of about $4,000 to your business if you win this. So this is something for a small business that's really quite significant. And we have a dinner at the end of the year and you get to come and get free lunch, so. I mentioned earlier community outreach. We have a community litter cleanup incentive program, very much like the municipality of Argyle's. In fact, you guys might have started yours first. We also do as much as we can through Facebook. We've got additional compliance inspector since the fall of 2011. If you haven't seen them, you should make a point to try and see our video series, and they can all be found on our website. And it's all success stories, but it's all drawing upon local people. So there will be faces and places and things in the videos you recognize. And these are actually now being used right across the province. They're all from our area, but all the other regions are using them as part of their education program as well. Hauler Appreciation Days, we go out and have a little barbecue and give prizes to our haulers, and they like that. Special events, we do things for Earth Day, Compost Awareness Week, Environment Week, and Waste Reduction Week as well. Mentioned there's an enforcement program. We've had a full-time bylaw enforcement officer since 2010, and he's charged with enforcing our municipal solid waste bylaws. And again, he does transfer station inspections, he investigates illegal dumping complaints, and he deals with non-compliance. Region 7 disposal. The national number is still 767 kilograms per person per year. The province now is down to 394 kilograms per year. Our region, Region 7, is down to 292 kilograms of waste per person per year. So we're the first ones in the province to actually surpass that provincial target. And we did it in 2013. The provincial target is to get there by 2015. So we're pretty proud of that. Hence the small but mighty part. For 4 years in a row now, we've had the lowest disposal rate in the province among the 7 regions. And it was actually through that original strategic planning that we began that our board set a target of hitting that 300 kilogram target by 2013, which they thought was pretty ambitious, but we were able to do it. Now, something even more exciting, our new solid waste app. And Amy, this is where you come in.
Alrighty, so most of you probably have smartphones. I guess we're also the first region or municipalities in the province to have this kind of an app. So it's new to everyone. So we've been busy promoting it through the summer at events. So I'm going to do a really quick overview once I remember how to use this tablet. Okay, so basically when it's a free app, so residents, businesses, anyone can download it on their smartphone or Android device. And basically they're gonna come up with this. So they need to select their city. And we'd hit municipality of Argyle for tonight. And it's just gonna download that for a second, hopefully. And, but I will mention that you only need Wi-Fi or the internet to download it when you're first downloading it. Once it's on your device, then you can use like your calendar and your reminders and that. This is looking good. As you can use like the calendar, you just can't use the advanced search that's on it, like putting keywords in to find out where those items might go. And that's basically it, and the report a problem. Let's try this one more time, and if not.
Technology's great for us.
Scott and I had this working. Ah. I'm saying I'm not connected.
So as Amy was saying, when you first download the app, it'll ask you to select the municipality where you live, in this case, municipality of Argyle. Then it'll show you the actual collection maps for the municipality of Argyle, so you can actually indicate where you live, where your residence is. Once you do that, then the smartphone app will keep track of when your collection day is, and you can also set up all kinds of neat things like give you a reminder if your collection happens to be on a Tuesday, that if you want your phone to remind you on Monday night that tomorrow morning before you go to work, you got your green card out the curb, you can do that.
I've had download for since you had the app, and the schedule is wrong
Oh, no.
so I was just wondering how you change it.
Probably best to see us after, because I don't know if you selected the address wrong or if there's a glitch in the
Yeah.
programming.
I just shared
We
it
would
on
love to fix it for you.
I just shared it on Facebook.
Oh,
I think it's gonna work. So when it downloads, I know, I kind of heard what Gus was saying, so you do select on the map where you live, but you can also go in and select, like if you already know that your day is on Wednesday and which week of the schedule, because there's week 1 and week 2, well, then you can just hit that and not go by the map, but the map helps if people aren't sure of where they, when their day is. All right, that's unfortunate, but. Okay, so we might have to, yeah,
Well, mine works.
Does it?
Yeah, mine will do this. So next pickup is on the 19th.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Wait a minute now, what did I have earlier? Just not doing. I will not go there. Argyle programs. Okay. Spring and fall collection. Okay, it gives you
I don't know if they can see that.
Can't see it, but go ahead, have fun.
I don't know.
But don't break it, eh?
I can't believe after we came out here this morning to make sure this was gonna work. But, anyway, so on here, I kinda know it by heart anyway, but there's a report a problem, which is a really neat feature, because you can select on there, hit, like if it's a broken green card in legal dump, someone's put garbage in your driveway that's not yours, you can actually take a picture, send it to us, and then we can send out the appropriate staff to take care of the issue. The other really neat aspect is the advanced search, so there's up to 3,000 items in there, so you can put in like a paint can, and it will tell you like the closest HHW depot or the Enviro depot, like where the closest one to you, so it'll actually tell you the kilometers to get there, and then it'll tell you the hours, the phone number to call. One of the other things that we've heard from people who are using it is that they like the reminder, because they can actually set on there to remind up to a week in advance, so it can tell you the week before your collection, if it's garbage day, if it's green cart week. Here, of course, it's all 3 at the same time, so they would just have to tell you what week it's out, it'll tell you, oh, it's garbage day tomorrow, so make sure to put that out. So that's another one that we like, is that if there's a storm and there's no collection on a certain day, we can send out a notification to anyone who has that app, and it will tell them that there's no collection and when it will be, or whatever information we want to say. So that is another key in there. Anyway, and they're continually updating, and it's not available for the BlackBerry right now, but it will be very soon. They're working on that part of it. So,
For us older folks that still have a BlackBerry,
yeah, we do too. But, and it's also like if you put in clothing, like which is really high right now with textiles, people are trying to divert clothing because some people still want to put it in blue bags. So it actually tells you to please donate it first, and then if not, like what bag to put it in. So it's very detailed, but we're certainly always looking for comments if something's not working on it to send that into them. So unfortunately, this didn't work. But if you could all download and spread the word. I will just mention lastly that we are drawing for an iPad at the end of October. We'd like people to download the app and use it, but if they don't have a device to download it, there's also an option that they can go to our website, and under what's new, there's a code word, and they can email or call us in that, and we'll enter them into the draw, because we'd still like them to be able to win the device. So anyway, we've been promoting that all summer, so we're gonna be continuing, and we're actually doing a big promotion coming soon to everyone because we haven't really officially launched it, I guess you could say, like out in the public. So we're hoping to do that over the next month. So sorry that didn't work.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gus and Amy, is there, anybody have any questions, or?
Please call us if you have a question.
Yeah, I've been trying to fix it and I can't.
Kathy was saying to me earlier today that it's, mine is right on. Mine is scheduled for the 19th for my region.
Mine was today and it's been last week.
This is my iPad.
Oh, and it's got the,
This is on my iPad, and it's bang on so far.
Okay. a soft tip too. Man should me not. Or should I hold down? Trying to hold down, but some.
I've been trying to figure it out.
If you call the office, one of us will help you.
It's gonna be your phone.
Well, we look at this.
Yeah.
For example, with the iPad, it doesn't, it stays there, but it doesn't matter, because, I mean, I can have it.
Okay.
When I have, one time for instance, it's actually geared for the smartphone.
I think it is,
Yeah, it's not geared so much for the tablet, for the tablet. Yeah. Thank you, Council.
Thanks, Gus.
Thank you, Gus.
Where? I mean, wait.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
Now I know when to put my garbage out. Huh? Yeah, that's right. I'm piling up and I bring it in Oak Road every day.
What did you roll?
Okay, next item, next presentation is Yarmouth and Acadian Shores, Julie Walters. Up at the mic. Oh, yes.
I guess since I did declare a conflict of interest, am I supposed to step out when the presentation is made, or just not talk on, or ask any questions, or?
Preferably, you would be sitting with the gallery.
Okay.
That would be preferable.
Yep.
Depending on council's direction, whether you've got the council, but that's.
Well, as long as you don't partake in the.
Side caution.
Yeah.
Put them there, yeah. The junior councilor from Lidgeport says put him over there.
Okay. Good, thank you.
I got elected just like everyone else.
In the Midwest, they have 2 senators per state.
Okay.
All right, so I'm all up, I'm set?
That's it.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so I'd like to thank all of you for allowing me to come here tonight. I realize that this is an emergency request, so I do want to thank you for squeezing me into your agenda. I realize you have a pretty packed agenda. You haven't met in a couple of months because of summer, so I'm going to try and make this pretty brief and to the point. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I didn't prepare a formal presentation. I just wanted to talk to you person to person to tell you basically why YASTA and why the board feels this is necessary. To make a long story short, as I'm sure all of you know, we have a boat coming here next year in 8 very short months. The boats will run from May 1st to October 31st. It'll be about a 6-month season, depositing up to 1,200 people per day in our community. We have an amazing opportunity in front of us to try and get those passengers to stay overnight in our community, to shop in our community, to visit our attractions and eat in our restaurants and spend significant amount of time here. But if we want that to happen, we have to work for it. We can't just hope that the boat is going to dock here, that the people are going to take a look around and say, oh, this seems like a nice place, these seem like nice people, let's spend some time here. By the time they've arrived here, they've already made their decision, they know where they're going, they know what they're going to do. We need to get at them when they're in their planning and their research stage, when they're talking to Quest, when they're talking with their travel agents, when they're going to trade shows, we need to be part of that discussion. Oh, you know, when you get off the boat, there's lots to do right in the region. You don't need to drive 3 hours to Halifax. Why don't you stay overnight in Pubnico? Why don't you stay in Yarmouth? Why don't you stay in Metagan? There's lots to see and do in this community. Spend 24, 48 hours. We can't expect visitors to spend their entire vacation in this region because we know they're going to want to visit the whole province. But I don't think it's unrealistic of us to expect them to spend some time here. And if we want to that, we have to work for it. A very, very, very realistic number is about 20,000 room nights generated in this region because of the ferry. We talk about room nights in tourism not because our concern is filling up the Grand Hotel. That's, you know, that's nice. But the reason that we talk about room nights is because that's how tourism is measured in international standards. You look at two things. You look at your occupancy rate of your properties, and you look at your ADR, which is your average daily rate. And you have to basically kind of measure the two and ensure that you have enough people staying at your properties paying a sufficient rate. And the reason that you look at your occupancy is you know if somebody's staying overnight, they're eating in your community. They're probably going to buy gas. They're visiting attractions. So that it's an easy barometer that every destination worldwide tracks, and it's tracked here for this province and for this region through the Department of Nova Scotia. You measure other things for the health of your industry too, like attractions, like your gated attractions and covers at restaurants and everything like that. But your bigger barometer is your room nights sold because it helps you get a real good grasp of how long people are staying in your area and kind of what their disbursement is. For us, for Yarmouth and Acadian Shores, in the last year that we have the full stats available, 2012, we sold 55,000 room nights for the whole year. To put that in perspective, when the Scotia Prince was running 10 years ago, we sold around 93,000 room nights per year. That's a big drop. So I really think it's very possible for us to get back to those numbers, but we have to work for it. I've seen personal experiences when the boats were running before, and in a 90-page document, Yarmouth was mentioned once in 90 pages. You can bet your bottom dollar there was no mention of Pubnico, no mention of Clare, no mention of Carleton. We were an invisible region. So it's great that the boat is coming here, but we need more than just a boat docking here and passengers getting off. We need them to stay here. We need them to spend money. We need them to explore our region, and we have to work for it. The reason that I'm here tonight is because in the tourism world, we work 1 year ahead. We started working on 2014 about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So when I see you, if I see you this time next summer, I'm going to be working on 2015. So our deadlines are in front of us right now. Doers and Dreamers had to be booked about a month ago. We have to start working on the visitor's guide like last week in order to have it ready for January. Booking deadlines for trade shows are upon us. Everything is coming at us pretty quickly. Even our partnership with Bay Ferries that we had this year that just ended 2 weeks ago, we negotiated that last December 1st with Bay Ferries. Right now, we're in a position where we can't renegotiate a partnership because we just don't have the money to work with them. And if we wait until our approved budget for next year, we didn't get that this year until the end of June. So it's very challenging for us in a tourism environment to find out, once the season's not already upon us, once it's half over, what we have to work with. So I realize it's hard for councils because the council fiscal year does not line up with the tourism year. It just doesn't. It's hard, it's frustrating, but there's just nothing we can do about it. Do you want me to smile? Oh, you're welcome. So for us, it's very challenging for us to make plans and to line up our marketing and line up our programming when we don't know what we have to work with. So we're here, the ASTA is here tonight to say, this is what we need. This is what we need now in the fall, this is what we need now in the winter, this is what we need now in the spring. And then once we get our budgets in June, you won't have to worry about the spring because the spring will have already taken care of itself. But what I'm really afraid of is us not doing anything and then somebody coming to me in March and saying, we got a boat arriving in a month and a half, what are you doing? Well, really not a whole lot. Or the worst thing is I don't want somebody to come to me and say, gee, you know, we need to get to these trade shows. We need to put ads in the Doers and Dreamers. We need a visitor's guide. Yeah, but we're late. We're late. We're late already. So Doers and Dreamers, the material is due October 15th. So that's like a month and 3 days. So it's not only enough to sign the contract, we have to get the pages designed, get the ads sold, so we need some time to get everything organized. It's a pretty compressed timeline as it is. I've spoken with the editor of the publication, with the Department of Tourism. They know that there's a lot of moving parts right now down in this community, so they have a little bit of patience, but at the end of the day, they're pushing to get that guide out about 2 months earlier this year as well. So they have patience to a certain point, but everything in their world is going to be wrapped up about a month and a half earlier this year than it's been in the past few years. So that's, I guess, my information for you in a nutshell. Everything was pretty, I think, well contained in the letter that was sent to you along with the budget. I do want to just explain a little bit why my name was on it. John Cunningham was the chair of the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association. He was also the PC candidate for Yarmouth. He is the PC candidate, and where we didn't know when the election was going to be called, he didn't want to put his name on it. So the election's now been called, and John's no longer our chair. He had to step down, and he's taken a leave of absence until the election's over and we know who wins. So it's just been challenging, I guess, is for lack of a better word. So I have a temporary chair now for 30 days who has said that he'll stay chair for 30 days, but we need a more long-term solution once the election's over. So.
Thank you, Julie. Councillor Surratt?
I guess my one question I have, we have, I'll speak for myself. As a councillor, you're sitting here, we have Bontown that's already started, I guess they've been at it for about a year. Then we have Destination Southwest Nova Scotia. Then we have Yasta. Then we have a task force that's trying to find people that for doing, I don't know if it's tourism stuff. Are you partnering with them to leverage with them to make your work, I guess, less costly and more effective?
So I guess the answer to that is we're trying pretty hard. I sit on the board for Destination Southwest Nova. I sit on their marketing committee, their VIC committee, and their membership committee. Destination right now has about a $60,000 deficit. So unfortunately, they can't share our load. They have a pretty big deficit to work with. The other kind of, it gets, I guess, extremely confusing when you're not in it every day, but it seems like there's all these layers in tourism. But really what it is there's all these different entities and they're going after different markets and they're tasked with doing different things. They're not working against each other, but everybody kind of has its own role. So for example, Destination Southwest Nova, they cover 9.5 counties. So they include half of Halifax County and everything on down. And their role is to market the loops. So basically, going through the valley, down through here, up along the South Shore, and that loop. And to get people here for 5, 6, 7 days and really disperse them. That's not Yazda's role. It's great. It's great if people go to the South Shore of the valley, but it really doesn't concern me when I put my Yazda hat on. What I want and what we're looking at is to get people here into this region for 2 or 3 days. We might get them longer than that, and if we do, that's great, but it's not our big focus. Our focus is to get them here. So we support the work that Destination does in marketing the loop, but we also have to look at other partners as well and look at who else we can work with, people such as Bay Ferries or Quest or things like that. The task force is a little different. I was appointed to the task force by Percy Paris. So the task force, we have $1 million. 100,000 of that has been set aside for admin. That was in the way the task force was set up. So that leaves us about $900,000 to work with. So what we've said is, what was in our terms of reference is at least 50% has to be spent on the creation of new experiences or the enhancement of existing experiences. So that's kind of the phase that we're working in right now, and we have a call for applications out for either new businesses or existing businesses to apply for a grant to help them get an idea or an experience off the ground. So the other 50%, up to 50%, can be spent on marketing. So we had a full day meeting about that yesterday. Yes, we're to Tuesday. Yes, yesterday. So I will say that the marketing that the task force is grappling with is a lot more challenging, for the simple fact that we keep coming back to this question: what are we marketing? The task force, what regions do we cover? What communities do we cover? What's our positioning? How do we work with the established travel regions? So this one is a lot more challenging, and what we're really grasping with right now is, do we take this money and then make it available for entities to apply for, to do marketing work? Or do we take it ourselves and contact potential partners and say, listen, you know what, Nova Scotia Tourism Agency, we know that you're going to spend $2 million in New England. Here's an extra $100,000 to help make it a little easier. So I don't know what the answer to that marketing will be. And I don't know when we're going to figure it out. I hope like by November, but I don't think it'll be figured out within the next few weeks, just because it's been really challenging. The task team was set up in a hurry, and I think it was the right thing to set it up, but it's been challenging really trying to understand what our mandate is and how we can get the most impact possible, and to really kind of figure out from the product development side how to make that the most effective. That took probably 4 or 5 meetings of, arguing every side of the coin and looking at it and really trying to grapple with it. In terms of the Bon Temps Society, how I see Bon Temps is, I see the members of Bon Temps really working to develop the experience within this municipality to make it as strong as possible, and to really become one of those entities that we can really rely on to, with confidence, to say, you know what, they're offering great experiences. Things like the Dark Sky Preserve and the Dark Sky designation, that's fabulous, fabulous work. And all of the things that can go along with it, like the Starlight designation and the Starlight Festival, everything like that. So I see a real role for Bon Temps, but I think, everything kind of has to layer together, and we all have to really work together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right,
Any other questions?
I guess not. I don't see any lights on here.
This is the least amount of questions that I've had yet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question.
Okay.
It might not be very political, but it seems there's some tension. From the emails I've got, with all the councillors I've gotten, sent to you, and you sending back some of the emails we've gotten. I feel there's a lot of tension over how your Doers and Dreamers Guide, I guess Argyle may, which I don't know if we're going to discuss tonight or not, may want to do their own, and this is the first I've heard of it, and we got our email on it. Why wouldn't they be working with you? I don't understand why. It seems like there's an infighting here, and I don't like it. I don't like it, and it's there's been some picking from the emails I've seen. So I don't know what the problem is, but either the CAOs have got to get together, sit with you, and get your act together, or I'm not voting for anybody for anyone, because to me, from the emails I've been getting, there's something wrong here, and something is not going to work. And it seems like YASTA, by some people, I'm not going to start naming from what I've read, should be put on the back burner. They haven't planned right. They're just coming to us and looking money now. We've had SWASDA doing that years ago, but let's not go there. And without a huge plan, and I found that YASTA was kind of picking, on the municipalities of not supporting maybe enough. So I think there has to be a net that has to get together here and to try to get along a little more and work, as Mayor Mood is saying, all hands on deck. And it seems there's some infighting, and I don't like it.
I can say that It's an extremely, extremely challenging position to work for 4 municipalities. And what I find incredibly frustrating is when a municipal councillor, when a municipality has a problem, don't tell me, tell your partners. Talk to your partners, work it out. Don't fight like this and put the people that are trying to work for all of you in the middle. It's incredibly frustrating. I get calls every single day. Yasta, you only like this municipality, and then so someone will say this about this municipality, and then I'll literally hang up the phone, I'll get a call from someone else from that municipality that everybody thinks is getting all the attention saying, you never do anything for us, you only do it for this municipality.
Yeah.
Do you want my honest answer? Get over it. We're one small region. We have to work together. We don't have enough product or experiences to stand up on our own. And we don't have enough money to make a strong enough impact in the marketplace. We have to work together. And it's so frustrating when I see this splintering or this fighting, because we're just spinning our wheels. We're a drop in the bucket. I don't even think between the 4 municipalities there's 35,000 people that live here. Like, we have to work together. And it's incredibly frustrating. So I would honestly, anyway, we won't get into it tonight, but I'm sure you can, I would just strongly encourage all of you, talk to your fellow councillors on other council tables. You know, we all have to work together. Doesn't mean that amalgamation has to happen. It doesn't mean that everybody wants amalgamation, but we can still work together on regional projects, I think, and work for the betterment of the whole community.
I don't think personally that if we have somebody like Yasta that wants to do a Doers and Dreamers guide, the first thing we have our municipality here, that we've got people that may want to work with Claire to do our own page. To me, that's not working together. And I'm not going to get in the middle, but something has to be settled if we want to move ahead and capitalize on the tours that are coming. We have a boat coming in May of 2014, and we better get our act together. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Rick Donaldson?
Yeah, I don't have a question for Julie, I just got an observation. What the problem I see with the funding is there's no set criteria based on a certain criteria that each municipality would be responsible for a certain amount of funding, like with Waste Check or any other organization we're involved in. And Julie mentioned like the room nights or number of rooms is a gauge that tourism goes by. I mean, the town of Yarmouth is not going to like what I got to say, but some kind of formula's got to be brought in play that's based on that. I mean, I honestly don't believe Argyle with, we'll say, 20 rooms should be paying what Yarmouth pays with 300 rooms. That's my 2 cents worth, and I'm sure we're going to have that debate around this table at a later date or some other time, but there's got to be some kind of a formula so each municipality knows what they're responsible for, because it must be terrible for her coming in asking 4 times and not knowing who's responsible for what, and and we got to know we want to know what direction we're going into, because we have bon temps, we have this, we have, like you mentioned, like where we're going to focus. So as far as this request, I don't know when we're going to deal with it or when we're going to discuss it, but right now?
As early as later in the,
Okay.
we've added it as
We've added it to the agenda.
if council wishes to.
Okay.
I think Julie's expressing a
Yeah, so I'm
time
sorry, I
issue.
shouldn't have brought that up until then, but
Yeah.
anyhow.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Oh, well, thank
you
you.
very much.
You're welcome. All right.
Okay, we're going to adoption of minutes. Planning Advisory Committee of January 31st.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Regular council meeting of June the 11th. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Committee of the Whole, June 25th.
There's an error. First, an omission. My name is in the list of councilors who are present.
Your what?
Name is in the list of councilors who are present.
25th?
Yes.
Okay.
So moved. With the amendment.
The amendment?
Yeah.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you for that, Nicole.
Thank you.
Business arising from the minutes. Is there anything?
Most of it is on the agenda, though I will say that in light of Yasta's presentation, there is Yasta bylaw amendment that we had brought, and we had asked the solicitor to make his comments. He has made his comments. That will be brought to Committee of the Whole. Probably should have been here today, but we had a long list, and I don't know that I wanted to confuse bylaws with funding requests. So,
Yeah.
I certainly will be bringing
Okay.
that for approval.
All right. Thank you.
Or
So I guess anything arising from the minutes should be on the agenda, unless somebody else has something, or somebody has.
there was another item that I think was on the the Oak Park Road that Kathy has taken it upon herself to
Yes.
address
Yeah.
in her own unique way.
Yeah. Thank
You
you.
may say that under your committee report.
Okay, next item is Warden's report. You've all received that sometime this afternoon. They're short and sweet. I highlight a few of the things anyway. Any questions on that or comments? If, Donaldson,
It's just on for when it's time for councilors' reports.
Councillor's report?
Yeah, if you don't get no questions.
It's your turn. Councillor's reports now.
Just a little update on Nikhil that I just received. The footings or walls are being poured for part of the building. The air filter on the intake seems to be working good and will be monitored throughout the project, and a lot of groundwork going on, preparation work, but they have actually started doing some cement work, so that's where that stands, and it's good to see it going ahead.
Good. Thank you.
And other than that, that's it for me.
Okay. It's been a long time coming, but it's here. Thank you. Bork?
I get these reports from Bertha once in a while.
Yes.
So I'll try to keep points up to date.
Okay.
Maybe I should even forward.
Yeah, forward it to council if you don't mind. Kathy Bork,
Yeah,
Councillor Bork.
just mentioned that I did have a meeting with Department of Transportation. We had a drive in the Oak Park Road that I've been after for a long time. And finally, me and Greg Newell and I had a long discussion for an hour, driving through, seeing what's what, and asking him questions how the Department of Transportation works. I think it was very informative and educational at the same time. I did get to finally, they're supposed to be grading far as the lake. Beyond the lake, it's almost, right now, it's impossible. They don't have the budget for it. It would cost millions of dollars to fix that road. It's quite bad. I told him we were gonna go whitewater rafting in there, but we went a certain distance in there and he wouldn't go any further. No, it was quite bad. But I did get to get a few things done, and hopefully that will help a bit for the people that do go in there. People do go at the lake in the summer and do go, pretty soon to be going cutting wood and things like that into their camps. So maybe that will help them out. And I just wanted to mention that we had our 4th annual picnic in East Pumlico. And I just wanted to thank all the volunteers that did work there, and it was a success. Thank you to all the volunteers.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question, Councillor Bork?
Sure.
What's going on with the trail? We've have some money for trail repairs and what?
I spoke to Ronde today.
I'm just asking you because you're the one that really pushed it
I
or
did
brought it up.
speak to Ronde
Oh,
today.
thank you.
And he apologizes for not getting back to us. He's had some health issues, so it was delayed a bit. But he is gonna come and see Alain. And they have been fixing a few potholes and things like that, and they're gonna be fixing, in the next 2 months, they'll be going through the 10 kilometers where
Oh.
it's really necessary. And he'll be coming to Alain to talk about the finances.
Okay, good,
But they did spend their commitment, $10,000 already.
good.
Yep.
Thank you. Surratt.
Just to inform council that we had a meeting for waste check, our monthly meeting for waste check this past Monday, and Jeff McCollum, the CEO for Resource Recovery Board of Nova Scotia, was in and he made a presentation. I'm just gonna give you a few numbers that he threw at us that I thought was interesting. We have 404 million beverage containers sold in Nova Scotia, and 321 millions are recycled. That's 80%. Don't want to ask me what happens to the other 80 million, but anyhow, I know that 80%.
You know where they are.
Yeah, they might be collected by people on the side of the road, whatever. Also, there's 1.1 million tires collected in Nova Scotia, and the recovery rate is around 90%. So I thought that was, pretty good. All the electronics that are returned, 90% of those that we return are recycled. And they have an audit to every step of the way that each piece is recycled in, so they know where it goes. So it's not just somebody said, yes, we did recycle, and he went to Vietnam or somewhere. So they have an audit that they follow where the stuff goes. There's over 4,500 metric tons of electronics in Nova Scotia recycled every year. And one final item, there's an issue with the building where they rent at. They've been after the airport corporation for the last 2 years to fix some leaks. There's mold in the building, so we passed a resolution that if the airport corporation doesn't answer to the next letter that we send out, that we'll be fixing the leaks and everything in the mold situation and take it off our rent. That's just to inform you. That's my report.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Albright.
I just wanted to share also that I was at the announcement at the hospital on the 5th of September when they announced the doctor residency program. A lot of people were there. It was nice. They invited all the doctors who are participating in the program to present themselves in front of the people who were there with their families. It was really nice
Yeah.
to see how many of them are participating. I was surprised. Also attended the 130th annual Quinnick Picnic. And again, as Kathy said, lots of volunteers to make that happen. And it wasn't a very nice day, but it was very well attended. They did very well.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc.
A few things, I guess. I met with, I was along with Warden Dr. Moe at the meet and greet at the Rod Grand Hotel with SDM, the representatives from SDM Quest. It was good to meet them. They seem really eager to become part of our communities. That was great. The tournament this summer in Wedgeport was an excellent success. Just like your picnics, it was nice to see the community come together, the volunteers. This year was the 10th anniversary, immensely successful, more so than ever actually. We had a dinner theater this year. There was a bunch of stuff that was added that wasn't there in previous years, which was real good. Some real talented actors in the dinner theater right here. Speaking on that, I'd also like just to take the chance to thank the volunteers. If any of them happen to watch this meeting, it was real nice to see. Just before the tournament, we had great success with the gentleman in Yarmouth taking care of the Department of Highways. They cleaned up the roads and the signs, and everything was put in place in time for all the visitors to Westport. It was nice to see. One of which I kind of pushed myself real hard in collaboration with our MLA Chris Donfremo, was getting the school zone pushed back to solely the Ditcher Road and not be part of the main road in Westport, which was done in the past week here, or 2 weeks probably now. Everyone's quite glad for that, given the fact that in the last I don't know how many years there's never been an accident when it was at 50 kilometers, and now it's back to 50 kilometers. So everyone's pretty happy about that. The airport board, we're currently working on a 5-year plan, as well as short-term goals. I think it's time we get our act together, given the fact that we do have starting next May, we have a connection with New England. It'd be nice to, open other opportunities. So I think we're really going to get our act together there. It's not without difficulties, like Councillor Surratt just pointed out, but doing the best. And then next week, regretfully, I won't be able to attend, but we have our next meeting regarding the REN, which should be nothing short of interesting, positive things coming out there. Still very much in the preliminary stages, but things are on the go. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Warden Dothram. I just wanted to mention that also I am on the airport board, and this weekend is the air show, 14 and the 15. We'll hope for good weather. And the next one is the Pumlico Point Trail. On Saturday, we organized a work program or work. I guess a bunch of us went out there, and there was 40 volunteers, and we cleared it took the morning and about an hour in the afternoon, and we cleared the trail about approximately 1 kilometer, 8 feet wide by, I don't know, as high as we could reach. I don't know exactly, I guess it all depended who had the chainsaw in their hands, right? But anyway, and also there was, at lunchtime, we had a barbecue. Coastal Credit Union, I guess, donated $100 for the barbecue. So we'd like to thank them. But all in all, it was a good team effort, and we're hoping that the next stage or the next time will be, I guess, taking some of the surface out and replacing it with gravel, and actually making it possible to walk on the trail. So
The garbage that's collected, did he know just something about?
yeah, we got the email from you. Thank you, Guy. And yeah, we'll take care of the garbage, which being along the coast, there's a lot of garbage. Most of it responsible by fishermen. So I think the next time we're going to bring the fishermen there to pick up the garbage. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Muse.
Just a brief report on the MCAP. We are on schedule. We had a meeting to discuss and go over the everything that's been put together now to try and correct whatever needed to be corrected. But we're really on track with that. We're on schedule, and everything will be done the way it should be done on time. We had a concern from a resident, and Kathy and I were there, about the building here not being accessible. She said she was an older, she wasn't older, but she was here, and she saw some people trying to get up those stairs, and they were having a hard time, and wondered why we were not a building with wheelchair accessible, because it's getting difficult for the older generation. It's always been. Yeah. So I said I would bring it up, or we said we would bring it up. I also went to the picnic. We worked, and she didn't mention, she said she attended, but she worked hard as well. We volunteered there. I volunteered as well. And again, it's great to see all the volunteers. And just want to tell you that I got funding from the province for one of my projects that kind of fought a little hard for here. But we did get the provincial funding for the Abrams River Wharf. Every penny that we applied for. So the residents are very, very, very happy with that. We're still waiting. I mean, the contractor is busy right now, but I've contacted the contractor, and definitely he's still interested in doing it, because it's been a long time since I had contacted him. But he's definitely still willing to do the work for the money that he quoted us. And as it stands, we have if we're short, we're not gonna be short very much. We have a whole year to do it. We have, the grant is good for a year, but we're hoping that he's gonna be there this fall to get the work done.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Donaldson?
Yes, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that our festival was a very big success, our Shorten Festival this year, and I'd like to send out a special thank you for Jonathan Joseph and Carl Storr for the community pig roast, which was an overwhelming success and a new event, and also for Jonathan for shutting down his restaurant on 2 occasions to host 2 events, and it was a great success. And also, I would like to mention, like, my informal observation this summer, the Glenwood project that we done was an overwhelming success. The user rate is extremely high compared to last year's. So at a future meeting, I'll probably be asking for some playground equipment.
For some what?
Playground equipment.
No. Thank you. Okay, good reports. Thank you very much. Now the CAO's report.
I'm very impressed with council's reports, and I won't touch anything that council has already spoken, and I'm really just going to go high level, recognizing that it's kind of a long report. We haven't met in a while, so. Ferry restoration, I don't know if you heard. It was a little low key, but the ferry is coming back. So there's work still to be done, obviously, with the terminal, and we envision a short and long-term strategy around that. Obviously, we can't build something new for May 1, but there'll be obviously some things that need to happen in the short term and in the long term. That negotiation's ongoing. There's a lot of information we don't know yet about what that might look like, but I can assure you that we have a gentleman that's working on behalf of the municipal units that has done this before. He ran ports all over Atlantic provinces, so he's very qualified. David Belafontaine, I think I've mentioned his name before. Yeah. So we're not just, we have the right people in the right place for that, and so that'll continue to press forward. One of the items that I'll probably be bringing up official report on at the committee of the whole, at the end of September, is the possibility of municipality considering investment in a COMFIT program. Many municipalities have, well, I should say, multiple municipalities have been approached for an investment opportunity in regards to wind energy. And I'm not talking about the large wind turbines that you're seeing at Pumlico Point or what Scotian Windfields would be proposing in their single turbine. This is a far smaller turbine. It's like a 50 kilowatt turbine. Certainly a lot of information that has been provided by the business that's interested in doing this. We're in contact with Department of Energy to try to get some information around procurement and other things that might be concerning. Financially, there seems to be some big upside. If you can get, obviously, that's one asset that we have. In fact, the strategic plan had identified renewable energy opportunities as an opportunity we should be looking for. And so, anyway, we've been identified as a high potential area for wind. So the company would actually sell that product, the wind turbines, to us and would operate it, and we would effectively be the owners, if in fact that's of interest to council. A full report will come at a future meeting. I'm hoping it's going to be the end of the month. And what I'd really like to be comfortable with is, if it's something that council's interested in, okay, but how do we go about it? If that's, next steps. The fact that a business has approached us, we have procurement rules that we have to follow, and so we want to make sure that we follow those rules if that's in fact the interest of council. And so that's an interesting opportunity that came by in the summer. RDA, I won't mention too much about that, although we do have an item on the agenda regarding the capital investment plan that we'll get into some of this as well. Some of the investments that could be coming through for capital investment, for COMFIT, etc. Medical recruitment, I think it's been mentioned. I should note that we have a new tenant at the medical clinic, Dr. Loveridge. Now that the family residency has been announced, Dr. Loveridge has graciously agreed to be a teacher or a preceptor for a family resident and also a CAP physician. So they're actually, it's an entirely different program, but in doing so, he'll increase our probability of retaining doctors in this area, hopefully by providing a good experience for the doctor in the area. So that's a big deal from our perspective. The sewer study for Wedgeport has been completed, so we're waiting on a community meeting. We had a date that we'll have to postpone. It didn't work well for the community, so we'll have to postpone that date. The recommendations that are coming out of that are for a much smaller system than was contemplated in 2001. So still a fair amount of money, but there's obviously some discussions that need to be made at the community level first. I can say that they looked at many options, including some of them that were discussed back 10 years ago, and just the price tag is enormous. So they looked at a much smaller option to deal with those areas that are the worst areas, right? So because we did the survey, we were able to pinpoint some of the major problems more accurately than we could have done 10 years ago. Tourism, well, we have a request on the docket as well, but there's also some information around Bon Temps that has been provided by Brenda through her report. We will probably look to approve our audited financial statements by the end of the month as well. A couple other reports that we need to bring for final approval to council that we'll be doing as soon as possible. So I guess I'll stop there and ask for questions.
One thing that we did see on the report here, and it was a huge success, I would say, it was the Hector Babin Memorial Fireman's Banquet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That went very well. A lot of good feedback from that. It's very much appreciated. Different comments from different firefighters from different areas. It was very, very positive. Any questions for the CAO? I understand. Yeah, okay, Councillor Bork.
I just wanted to add, Brenda had written in here that she had helped Danny with the, for funds. Well, she helped us too at the Eastside Community Center, and we received also from the provincial government $22,000 to redo our bathroom at our community center. So thank you, Brenda.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
She was telling me today she has how many applications in now? 7 or 8
Yeah.
or 10 or something?
Constant. Good news travels fast. At the risk of getting on a soapbox, we often talk about regional and community tourism, and we talk about regional and community economic development. And this council had decided the budget, in actually both cases, to do both, is to invest locally in Argyll and also to consider the regional model. And I think what happens, and I think especially in economic development, what we're seeing with some of the REN discussions is that the REN at the higher level is able to do things like put us on the map as a community, not as a community, as a region, right? So we're really ultimately quite invisible unless we have something larger than our municipal organization that promotes us as a business opportunity, this region. But we also have opportunities, as Brenda often picks up, that are more community economic development. And so that's working with our businesses, which we do with Gilles Babin and Brenda, and we also have opportunities like this where we know there's money, and so we connect the groups with the money. I don't think we can achieve that at a regional level. So we've seen a lot of success with that at a local level, and that's, I think, a really good example of how you balance the two. And it pays dividends, because you couldn't expect a regional tourism or a regional community development organization to do that for every region. It's just not possible.
No.
At that level, I think it's kind of justification for your decisions around investing in both, because they both matter, right? Anyway.
Councillor Muse, you.
Just a question regarding the cap. I know Brenda had mentioned there was six areas and only 5 doctors. Does that mean that 5 of those 6 that you mentioned are going to get one? So, I mean, she mentions Pubnico and Yarmouth. Does that mean that one or the other is going to get one of those doctors?
I think the information is fluid on this, and what my understanding is that there might in fact not be a gap in those numbers anymore. So I know that DHA is focusing on Digby and Pubnico to showcase the area, and I believe, to the best of my knowledge, that there are, let's say, 6 physicians and there are 6 positions. So each of them that will be presented, to the best of my knowledge, will be filled.
So the 6 that's mentioned there would be the 6 that are filled, because she only mentioned, I think she mentioned 6, and not just in this area. I mean, there was some,
Right.
Right across the province. So, yeah, she mentioned the ones in the province, I think.
I think that information, again, is fluid, and the
Okay.
recent, I think, update was that if we're presenting a seat for cap physician, to the best of my knowledge, I can't guarantee it will be filled, but I think there's
okay.
extremely high probability
Mhm.
that it will be filled. But again, that's kind of a moving information.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item, we'll go to business, number 9, other business, and for decision, capital investment plan. That's your baby, Mr. CAO.
This is probably easiest to follow on your computer if you're all able to follow it there.
Everything is, needs weight.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
to have
I can't get on it either.
I think it just takes a while to open because it's a larger document. Okay, all right. So,
Yeah.
Sorry on that.
no, that's okay. What I want to do is just, first of all, this is new to some, so I'll just highlight quickly what this is. This is a provincial request, and the province wants us every September to approve a multi-year capital investment plan. What they want to know is that we're planning, this isn't a for sure plan, okay, but that we are projecting or looking at how much gas tax that we're going to receive over a multitude of years and where we're going to spend it. They just want to know that we're doing multi-year planning and not just going year to year. So it's part of the obligation for gas tax. So if we don't do this, we don't get gas tax, and we like gas tax, so we do it. So so somebody else will get it if we don't. So anyway, so from our perspective then, so what I do every year with this is every project that was there in the prior year that isn't completed, I leave. So what you'll see is on page, I guess it would be page 3, on the project summary page, you'll see that, there we go. There are projects there that start with an 09 and they go 10, 11, 12, 13. Those are the years they've been added, okay? And so what we have is 11 projects that are on the list. Some of them are not approved by council as of yet. They're not projects that have been brought to your approval. Okay, so I'll talk about the ones that have been brought to your approval and that we've effectively moved forward in some way, shape, or form. The Wedgeport Wastewater Initiative says project cost $30,000. That's almost completed. So that it stays there because it wasn't done at the end of the prior fiscal year. Dewatering infrastructure is completed this year. The Wedgeport wastewater has been there a while. Obviously, that has been established as a high priority for the community. Again, we need to do the study first before we get to the project, and that project is contingent upon Building Canada funding to support 2/3 of the cost because it's a big project. Dennis Point Extension, as you know, ACOA approved their portion of the funding, and at the last meeting you approved the engineers, and we're moving forward. So that's a project that will be completed within this fiscal year. I'm quite certain of that. Climate change adaptation reporting, that's Taylor's work. So that's the cost around Taylor's work on the MCAP. Trails renovation and alteration, again, this is one that has been approved. You've approved the money. It's just happening this year, so it's still on the list. And then the last one on the list I added this year, you've already approved in the capital budget, and it's the Tusket Wastewater Improvements Project. That was on the treatment plant. There were upgrades that were required. This is the one that received PCAP funding of $22,000. Okay?
Yeah.
So that one has been added this year only because you've approved it on the capital budget. I noted an omission on the list. The tennis court retrofit should be on this list and will be added. It will not attract any gas tax, however. Council has approved that the money be coming out of operations, and so we've rated for that, but it will be added to this because it is considered to be a capital project. It should be listed here. So the final will have that one listed.
Was that 80,000?
Yes, that was 80,000 we committed this year. So, and the status of that is the Argyle Rec Commission is going to be making a recommendation to council on that. So the new ones, or the ones that we haven't established any form of moving forward initiative, would be the Municipal Administration Building, which I describe as a renovation or new. That hasn't moved because we haven't made a decision in that area. Also, we have listed, not that it's our project, but it's Eelbrook Fire Department project that we would be significantly involved in, and it's the Eelbrook Fire Department potential new fire hall. That's listed here as well. That was approved in prior years in terms of priority. Now, if that changes, if the nature of that changes or how we get to those projects change, obviously we'll change this. But for now, this is what we have. The project costs in those areas are estimates. We don't have solid numbers on those. These are more future-oriented projects. The other two that I added here was the Comfit Wind, only because if that's an interest of council, I wanted to reflect that here. It's a little quick for me to add that to this particular report. It could easily be deleted until you make a decision on it. I wanted to reflect what that impact might be if it was in fact in your interest. So that's why it's included there. If you're not comfortable with it because it is admittedly premature, it can be taken off, and next year could be added if it is your priority. Okay? And then the last one is the ferry terminal retrofit. There's a lot of questions around that. I think we don't know what the engagement could be, but we know that there is a request for municipal engagement, so it's listed here as a projected project. If I saw it as a project, I put it here. I'd be remiss if I ignored it. I just wanted you to see the list, and ultimately this is your capital list to approve. So any of them that need to come off, they could easily go put back on next year, or if there's any that have been missed other than the tennis court, this would be an opportunity to do that. If we've missed it here, it doesn't mean it won't happen. And if it's listed here, it doesn't mean it will necessarily happen, okay? This is, it's an exercise in estimation, okay? So really what we typically do is before the project becomes a reality, we talk about it, we make an official motion for it to be moving forward.
Yeah.
Because typically we need to find out who's paying and et cetera. So that's that's the project list. And what you'll find in the future pages is quite confusing, okay? And it's the presentation that the province likes to see, what happens each year, okay?
The money.
How the money gets dispersed, who's paying, how's it paid, etc. To try to simplify that, I've added a spreadsheet, a document that shows if we were going to apply the gas tax to the projects that are being listed here, this is what it would look like. So, so that's actually a second attachment, the smaller attachment. I realize this is there's a lot of numbers on this. I think it's important for council to understand what the projects are, the costs associated around those projects, and where the money is coming from. So this document does reflect that a lot of these projects are either supported by federal, provincial, or they have gas tax support.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted to look closer to any of these, I'm happy to do that, but I won't go through each one because I feel like that might be repetition for you.
Yeah. So, okay. What you need here is, we need a motion to approve the list,
It would be a motion to approve the capital investment plan.
capital investment plan, yeah.
Noting that I will be adding the ferry, the tennis court.
Tennis courts, yeah.
So do you take anything off?
That will be up to council.
No,
If-
are there one or two that already are done, or you,
They're done now, I guess.
oh, okay, I know what you mean, they
because
weren't done,
It includes this fiscal year.
yes, right.
They're
okay.
not done, they weren't
They
done at
weren't
the
done at the
beginning, so
end
that's
of,
why
yeah,
they're
the
there.
fiscal
Yeah.
year, okay. Okay, so any questions or comments on Deputy Warden,
I'll make that a motion.
that we approve the capital investment plan?
That is correct.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Muse. All those in favour signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next item, DPC member change. I think it's explained very well. Yeah, I assume you've read that and you know, you realize, you see what took place.
Yep.
Yes, Councillor LeBlanc?
Yeah, well, just to point out, obviously it looks like that Danny and I, because of legal reasons, have to be taken off. They're looking for a third appointed member. Is there any reason it couldn't be Danny or I?
No reason at all.
None whatsoever?
It's just that it has to be Kathy and me, I guess,
It's-
plus another one.
It's due to the DPC Act. There's an
Yes,
act that
yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just to make it known, if council wishes, I would accept to be appointed to that board.
I will make that a motion.
Move,
Suggested motion, just type in his name.
Unless Danny, oh, that's fine.
you've heard the motion. All those in favour signify by saying aye.
All right.
Opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Choice, Housing Committee Member Appointment. I think this was, Danny and I have attended a couple of these meetings, but I think they want, what they're looking for here is to have somebody officially appointed by councils.
But I thought we already were.
Are we here? Well, some of the other councils didn't have anybody, I think, and maybe that's why. But they were sent here also. Are we appointed?
I'm not sure that we were
I thought you were, but maybe not.
appointed, or if the request came through an email, if anybody was interested in going to these meetings or something.
But I'm not sure we were appointed by council.
But
I can't say.
It was never appointed by council.
Huh?
They never got appointed by council.
I
No.
don't think so. I think it was just that
We-
whoever wanted to go to that meeting.
We just happened to go.
And we happened to go, and then
Yeah.
we're on the committee.
If council so chooses to keep us there, I guess.
Yeah, I'll make that a motion.
Second.
You all heard the motion that Danny and I will be,
You accept?
huh? Yeah. All those in favour signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. He didn't oppose the motion.
I didn't oppose.
Senior Safety Grant Funding Request. Oh, yes. This is, comes from the meeting that you had with Sergeant Lacroix and
Yes.
Peggy. You want to
Yes.
speak to that?
Sure.
Yeah.
What we've been faced is a bit of an uphill battle. I think it requires political intervention. What we have is a senior safety plan that I think Sergeant Lacroix describes as the best in the province. And I don't think I think that's a justifiable comment. We have 2 full-time senior safety officers and their job is changing all the time, and their needs in the community are gigantic. And so the municipality of Argyle decided that they want to take a leadership role, and they decided that they were going to use a municipal employee to do this work. And the municipal employee was a perfect match, really, for the skills that she had for this, and is learning and doing a lot of good work. The municipality of Yarmouth has done the same, and so they've hired their own full-time person, and they're full out. They're full out busy. And so from our perspective, the funding we're getting from the province is a bit of a concern. Because they're municipal employees, there's a technicality around funding eligibility. So, and what we're getting is the same story. There's really no movement on this whatsoever. So I think we need to remind the province that this is actually a program that should be best practice. It should be an example of what they're doing across the rest of the province, but we can't get more than $8,000-$10,000 to support 2 positions. So I think the request that's happening here, I think the wording is fairly clear, and I think that the leadership should come from both the municipality of Argyle and Yarmouth to request, I guess, after the election, a reconsideration around the eligibility, and the fact that there's already a precedent set in terms of providing a francophone service in Digby County. There are 2 separate services, one in Digby County, one in Clare. Well, Clare's in Digby County, but there's 2 actual services. Each of them are getting between $18,000 and $20,000 a year. So we're getting 9 between 2. So we find we're in a very inequitable position funding-wise, and I think that the province really only has a pie so big to deal with, and I think that.
What are you saying, we're getting 9? Aren't we getting 9 each? 18.
So,
getting.
sorry, I apologize, not
Yeah.
a total of 9. We've gotten only 8 in a year, but now we're approaching 9, but we're having trouble spending all of it because the
Guidelines.
the guidelines are so strict. We can buy cookies for 1,000 people, but we can't apply it to salary, or we can't apply it to other things. And from our position, that's the stuff that matters, right? Because they're going door to door and they're seeing people that are really in need, and the needs are very wide. So we'd like to deliver the best service possible, and right now the provincial funding is really quite restrictive in terms of executing that. So the RCMP is asking for some help and support in terms of moving forward with this.
Is the employee in Clare, Digby, are they staff, are the employees of the, how's that geared up?
They're
It
employees.
doesn't say it in the letter.
No, they're not municipal employees. They're employees of nonprofit organizations. So how it works here is we have a nonprofit organization, the Crime Prevention Association, that applies for the funding. And because the employees are not direct employees of that organization, they are denying the salary as an eligible expense. From our view, it's a technicality. They're delivering the service. So to us, it looks like because there's a limited amount of money, that's a factor they're using to limit the funding for this particular project. Certainly, when we ask a nonprofit organization to take a leadership role in these kinds of projects, you can appreciate the complexity around payroll and all these other things that the municipal units are already geared up solid to do. So those nonprofit organizations really have to kind of struggle with administration, where these guys don't have to. They go out and they deliver the service.
Well, I'd like to move that we send a letter to the province, to the funding Department of Seniors, I guess, and to send a letter that to reconsider and give our best case. And I guess should it be both units doing this? I would think both units, CAOs get together, or I don't know, to be the CAOs, or just who it would be to do that, but both units then get together and write a letter to the Board of Seniors to reconsider and to explain our position.
It'd be a letter from council, and it would be from both, the request has gone to both councils.
That would be my, my motion.
Second.
Okay. Heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Yarmouth Area Chamber of Commerce banquet sponsorship. Okay, this is one thing that we have been doing, annual business awards banquet. A bronze sponsor was what, $400, I think? And that includes 2 tickets to the banquet. So, and we have in the past, and I sent the email the other day, I hoping that, you know, if somebody had a business to recommend or to nominate, that we could send them in. We've had, every year, I think we've had somebody from the municipality of Argyle that received recognition, so.
This one has typically fallen under advertising for the municipality.
Yeah.
Because we're usually printed in a brochure, et cetera. So it's kind of one of those weird ones we've done every year just to support the local businesses. But this one has typically fallen under marketing. I just want to make that clarification because sometimes with the grants to organizations and it can be a little confusing.
So what's your wish? You want to?
Just a question.
Yes?
Has it been budgeted for this year? Like, I guess indirectly under advertising.
Under advertising, we include this one just because it's traditionally been there.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we sponsor the event for the bronze sponsorship of $400.
Cool.
I'll second that.
Have a seconder, mover and seconder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Eelbrook Fire Department, use of municipal logo. Okay. I thought that was pretty neat. What do you- Neat idea. What does council think about that? Are you in favor of? Yes, Surratt?
If there's no liability or legality behind, that does anything there, I think it's great.
We have a policy on the use of the logo. I think this in no way contravenes that. In fact, it's actually pretty cool that Eelbrook Fire Department had that logo pride that they felt like they should include it in their own. So there's nothing that stops this from being approved, in my view.
Solicitor, you have anything to add?
Yes, I do. I'm just wondering what is the image that you're wishing to project here? And now, from a legal point of view, I don't think there's anything tying you into that. The difficulty or the question that I would raise is that, or a bit of background. The way I understand it, each fire department is its own entity, therefore owns its own equipment and owns its own property. Municipality of Argyle is to use a loose term, perhaps a sponsor of, and does have some sort of responsibility under the MGA as well, but not in an ownership capacity. It supports the fire departments by virtue of the MGA and also by its policies. It does not tie you in to the ownership of anything. It does not bring further liability to you, but the image that it projects is one that you may be more of a participant in or more of a partner in their activities than what you really are. Just throwing that out. I don't think there's any legal liability, but there would be questions raised. Say, for example, in a tragic situation where a fire truck were to have an accident with another vehicle while going towards an emergency of some situation. So anyway, I'm just raising that issue. There's nothing from a legal standpoint. It's just the image that is being projected when I first saw that. And I just reviewed it tonight. My apologies for maybe not bringing it up to the CAO prior to that. Maybe we should have had some discussions prior to this, but in any event, those are my comments.
Thank you. Councillor Muse?
I guess, when I first saw it, I thought it was maybe a good idea, but then, what about all the other fire departments? Does it make it look like we're part of the Eelbrook Fire Department, but we're not part of any other fire department? They all have their logo, or I think they must have all their logo, and it just kind of stands out as if we're almost partners. You know what I mean? Like we're
Only for Canada, not
we're
the other.
more for that fire department, and maybe it's just my view. I don't know. It's just that it stood out when I first saw it like that. That is that a good idea or is it not? That is our logo. It's anyway. And then my question was answered as well. That I wondered what our policy was for the use of the logo as well. So anyway, just want to point that out.
Yeah.
If I could just make one final comment. Basically, graphically, it's very appealing. Don't take me wrong. It's very appealing graphically. The artists who work on this did a fine job, and I do not want to in any way denigrate from that. It's just my concern.
Yeah, well, when I saw that, I thought, well, that's the fire department in the municipality of Argyle. And
Okay, so I guess I had never thought of it, but point well taken. But now I'm thinking about in Lower West Pamlico, not far from where I live, at the local ball field. I think, if I'm correct, the ball field is owned by the parish. We have a building there that has the Argyle Recreation logo on it.
Mhm.
So is that kind of the same type situation are we talking about here, or?
I think the question of ownership would be, like, it doesn't change that, but what it does is it might send a different message, it might confuse the message. I think the message on the recreation is just simply that this is an asset that the recreation department uses, so you can, so that's the reason why they painted it there, and it's really nice. I should note that a lot of the ID tags that the fire departments are printing for their fire departments have our logo on it as well. So that there is not a precedent, but there is. I think they're trying to attach or associate with Argyle, and I think there's very positive reasons why that's a good thing. But there is the risk of it being exclusive or looking at it in a different way.
If you had not necessarily a policy, but a program to encourage the other fire departments within the municipality to amend their logo to include such a thing, I think it would alleviate a lot of that image that's being projected as well. I'm getting into policy issues that I really have no business being into, but it's just that as a solicitor who is perhaps at times trying to determine who's liable for certain situations, when I see something like that, I will ask questions in that regard. I just want to bring that to your attention. It would be very quickly resolved, very quickly dealt with, but it does project that kind of image. Anyway, sorry to interject again, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Leblanc?
The only issue I had was a liability issue, and our solicitor pointed out that there is none. I believe we're looking at this a little too seriously. It's a fire department. We showed our appreciation for them just a few weeks ago by our banquet. It looks like they're showing their appreciation for us and that we work together. Given the fact that there's no liability, it's a beautiful logo. As long as we give every other fire department the same chance to put our logo if they wish. We're not favoring anyone. I think we're talking about this too much. It's great.
Thank you. Surratt?
Councillor LeBlanc, you just took the wind right out of my sail. Exactly what I was going to say. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Albright?
Same thing. I was going to say the same thing. I
Okay.
totally agree. I think it's great myself. I really liked it from the get-go. Yeah, I do.
Thank you. So,
Yeah, I think it would be in order, yeah.
I'll make. Oh, good point.
Half my district's lost second.
All those in favour signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now, doers and dreamers, request for decision.
So, Mr.
Okay.
Chair, I think the
Yeah.
doers and dreamers under G and the marketing requests under J should be discussed all in one.
Yes.
Because Councillor Surratt raised a question to the presentation, Julie Walters' presentation, that I think we need to clarify for those that are watching and for the rest of council.
Yes.
There was a meeting that was had at the YASTA level where the YASTA had said that they had no money for the doers and dreamers. So the members that work in tourism, Larry Peach, the full-time tourism officer in Clare, and Brenda, as part of her duties, assists stakeholders in tourism in Argyll. And so they were asked by the manager to look at, you know, their respective budgets to see if there was money for this. The discussion came around doing I guess Acadian Shores spread that Clare and Argyll could go to their stakeholders and say, look, we could kind of brand this YASTA brand, not a different brand, YASTA brand, but have it like Acadian Shores. Okay, come see the Acadian Shores, and then the other page would be like, come see Yarmouth, and so they would be able to promote them all together. So there was in no way any intent to do doers and dreamers at the expense of YASTA. YASTA made it very clear that they did not have the funding to do this. Now, this meeting that in question preceded the emergency request for funding. So based on learning that, myself and Brenda and Larry spoke and said, look, I think our stakeholders want to be in doers and dreamers. The ferry's coming back. I think that it would be like the first time in years that stakeholders would not have an ad in doers and dreamers. Because of her, the YASTA's funding situation, they had to make decisions, and one of the decisions they made was to not do doers and dreamers. So that is why there's a request in front of you to support doers and dreamers for $5,000. Now, now this request comes in, and included in that request is a $20,000 ask, of which our 25% portion, if you're thinking about that, would be $5,000. Financially, it makes more sense to have it done through YASTA because we would get more pages for the same price, okay? But I think it highlights work that we need to do in order to understand how we're going to do this moving forward. And so there has been some areas that, you know, of course, this is an emergency funding request for $35,000. Those decisions are never taken lightly here. And so there were a lot of questions asked by your CAO to the executive director of YASTA as a consequence to that, to understand where the leveraging, et cetera, came from, so that Argyll Council could make an informed decision in terms of marketing for the region. So I think that those questions may have sparked the wrong idea. Our collective responsibility is to be accountable to our taxpayers, and so we ask those questions, and so that's, I think, maybe where some of this communication may have gone off the rails. I can assure you that those kinds of communications are the communications with YASTA in terms of staff to staff will continue, and I think we just need to understand each other moving forward. These are actually good times that the ferry is actually coming back, and so the request for marketing is I don't think a huge surprise to staff in terms of actually addressing that question. So I guess I'm asking for those two things to be considered at once rather than separate, because that request for decision brought to you was under the understanding that they were not going to do the doers and dreamers. That's now back on the table, so I think that we'd be best served to work with YASTA on that, but to highlight a concern that we need to get this thing
Yeah.
resolved, and I trust that we will. I can't really comment on arguments between councils. I'm not sure exactly what that reference was, but I think that when you have variances in funding that we've had this year, it causes questions and potential conflict. And not the 4 units did not participate in YASTA at the same percentage. 2 municipal units contributed 60, one at 45, which is us, and the other at 40, which was Claire. So when that happens, and there's no strong outline of what those percentage allocations should be, it can have the potential to cause conflict. But I guess that's where we need to what we need to address and move forward on.
Thank you.
I guess, I didn't realize that we were gonna put those two together. I guess now that they're together, I'm probably in conflict, so I will have to step out.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Well, I think that, it would be a shame, and I'm not giving any amount here, but I think it would be a shame that we were all excited about getting a ferry if we don't put some money in advertising, Other people have done their part. It wouldn't make us look very good if we weren't to. But that's a wish, that'll be the wish of council, whatever the council wishes to do. Councillor Surratt.
I guess on my part, I guess when I look at the mayor of Yarmouth, Pam Mood, and getting all hands on deck, trying to work together and bring people together to, to try to get some ideas and to, hey, this ferry is coming, and we're, we will have to work together. I guess I've always had at this council in the last 4 years a little bit of, I guess, some maybe negativity on my part, a little bit on the YASTA, because they didn't seem to be coming to the table. There seems to be coming all of a sudden, we need this money, and you really didn't know where they were coming from. I guess that was some of the part that I'm concerned with. And I really believe that the first thing we saw Bonneton coming in and requesting money, we've given to Bonneton. And I'm looking, but if one is going here, one is going there, somebody wants to give $20,000 to YASA, the other wants to give $15,000. Are we really working together? Are we all hands on deck? So I'm not sure where I'm going. I don't want to blame anybody. I'm confused myself where to go. I thought we were going to, my opinion was try to put all our hands into helping one organization, or especially YASTA, which is the representative of Yarmouth and Acadian Shores, to put our money in there, because they're our lead people. They're representing 4 counties, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm hearing what the discussion is here, and I'm glad we're having it. And if it is Claire and Argyle that do the Doers and Dreamers, really I couldn't care less as long as we have something in the Doers and Dreamers. But I guess maybe I need direction of, should we be with YAS, or should we be with just 2 councils? Should we be with the 4 units together to do this, since YAS is representing the 4 units? That's where I'm confused, I guess. And if I can hear from the other councils at the same time, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think there's room for both. We need a regional approach too, but we still have to work with our stakeholders here. I think, that's my view, yeah, I think. Councillor LeBlanc?
First, I'd just like to point that last October, when we're all elected, or I guess, put it this way, last October when we were all here for the first time as this council, we all listed our priorities. Our CEO asked us to list our priorities, and I don't think there's one of us that didn't mention the ferry. It's a lot of money, but I think it's time we put our money where our mouth is. That being said, I feel like there's a bit of unclarity, even given the fact that we jumbled 2 line items from the agenda here together. I'm just gonna request from our CEO maybe to clarify what is being requested of us exactly at this time.
All right, and I apologize for that. I didn't want for council to make an independent decision around doers and dreamers and then go to YASTA and look at that request, because the YASTA request is $35,125 per municipality. And included in that is doers and dreamers advertising of $20,000, okay? So the request that has come from our staff is $5,000, which represents the doers and dreamers. So I guess if you look at it, it comes to the same. The difference is actually we would actually have more promotion under the YASTA request than we would in this instance. And the reason is, and the reason being is that most of the people that advertise in doers and dreamers are from Argyll and Clare. So one of the benefits of being in a regional tourism association is that there is give and take in regards to what benefits and what costs that come and go to your organization. In this particular instance, if everybody shares 25%, other units are paying slightly more than you are, I guess, and you're actually getting more out of that particular marketing option than you would if you did it on your own. Now, that's not the case in every instance, but in this one, I can tell you that it is. And so the other elements around the marketing request, I mean, I think that I had asked quite a few questions around leveraging and why it's only the municipal units being asked for funding. The information that had been provided to me was that there were applications that have gone to the province and federal government. With an election provincially, I don't know what that's going to mean in terms of turnaround and whether we'll hear until the 9th of October, which will be too late for some of these things. Or, you know, so some of the coordination is still fairly unknown. So I think from my perspective, what they're asking for may actually change how they spend the money. How they actually spend the money may be different than what's being presented here, because there's a lot of fluidity around this. But I would suggest that if council is interested in doers and dreamers, it should at least be considering $5,000 to YASTA. I mean, really, you know, the number is entirely up to you, obviously, but so that's, I apologize for putting them together.
No, just wanted to be sure.
You understand now? You got it clear now?
100%.
Yeah.
And I did, I guess, from the get-go. I just wanted to double check. Is there, there isn't any reason we can't put any stipulations on how our contribution is spent, is there?
That's possible. It depends on the stipulations, I think.
Well, obviously, they have to be reasonable, I would assume. All right, that's all I had to say, I guess.
That's all for now?
Yep.
Thank you. Donaldson?
My question is financial, like, where would we find this money? Are we allowed to use operating reserves?
We are allowed to use operating reserves. I would say that this money is not budgeted. So this is a non-budget item. So it would come from there. Or if there was obviously a savings during the current year in another line item, we wouldn't necessarily have to go to the reserve to get the money. So the answer is yes, we can go to the operating reserve, but that's the only reserve we can go to, because this is an operating expense.
So it can be done without affecting this year's budget in case there was no surplus?
Correct,
Yeah.
but we would have to make a motion, and I don't think you have to do it immediately, but I think eventually you would have to make a motion to bring that money out of reserve to offset the expense.
And you may not need to, right?
It's possible that savings in other areas may not require, a transfer to the revenue. I would say, and I think that it is noted in the request for decision for doers and dreamers, that the $5,000 amount we were fairly comfortable could be absorbed in a line item under tourism in the Argyll existing budget. 35 could not, but we were very comfortable that the 5 could be absorbed.
Yeah.
We estimated a little high on what Bonton would require or what local stakeholders would require to execute their work this year.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Muse?
When we're talking about the $5,000 for the Doers and Dreamers, that's what we had, the other part that we were talking about. But if we go here, then of course we don't need that one.
Correct.
But if we were to just say, you're saying it's going to cost us the same, but if we're only going to give the $5,000 to Yasta, and maybe that's been answered there and I missed it, but does that mean that can we say that that's where it's going? But if that's all we were to give,
That's what I was asking.
yeah.
If you're, I mean, really, I think the frank answer to that question, honest answer to that question, is that if you only gave $5,000, you'd be hard pressed to put a condition on it.
Yes.
Right, because I mean, $5,000 in that budget would quickly be absorbed by a variety of different marketing opportunities. So I think if you were to select a larger amount and insist upon the Doers and Dreamers, you could do that.
Yes.
If you wanted the Doers and Dreamers and only the Doers and Dreamers, I would suggest that the request for decision
Yeah.
in front of you
Yes.
would probably be the most efficient way.
Right.
We'd have our people kind of
Yeah.
gather that money, put it together, and then ship it to Yasta for final review. But that's just a small portion of what's being asked.
Exactly,
here.
because what they have is a budget of what they want to do. Now,
They do have-
if every municipality decided that, I mean, they need $140,000, which comes out to 35, if every unit decided that they're, okay, no, we're only going to give 20,000, then Yasta's going to have to decide exactly what it is best
That's right.
in terms of where they go with that money, right? They're going to have to cut out something.
That's right.
But I would say that Doers and Dreamers is probably one of the top ones that we should be looking at, I think. Whether we give the 35 or not, I feel that we've got to contribute something. And I think we've got to contribute something that's not just going to give us Doers and Dreamers. I think there's more out there to be done in order to promote this area. So I would say that, you know, we have to come up with a figure that makes sense, that they can do more than just one thing from this list.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, you know, we like I said earlier, we've been celebrating the ferry coming back, but we have to do our part, I guess. But maybe not to the full extent of 35,000. But Mr. Muse, Surratt, I mean.
You. Oh, I got a faint feeling when he said news. I would just suggest to throw something out there to all the councillors. I would be prepared to say 25,000, 20,000 to Yasta, with stipulation on the extra 5,000 to Doers and Dreamers. That's just something I'm putting out there.
That's not a motion.
I'll make that a motion.
Okay. Thank you. We have a seconder?
I'd like to personally discuss it a little more.
Well, we have to need a seconder to discuss it.
I'll second it and bring it to the floor.
Okay, thank you.
I would be willing to bring it to, if we had to bring it to 15,000 to Yasta and 5,000 to Doers and Dreamers, if it fits everybody's palate a little
Well,
bit better.
Well, you made a motion
Yeah, but I
now.
already made the motion, but then, you know, just to let you know that I'd be willing to
Okay,
drop down if that's.
Thank
I could
you.
amend that motion.
There's confusion on the
Well-
motion, I think.
Yeah.
Mr. Cliff.
What's the number and who is it going to? Just so I can clarify.
all going to Yasta.
Yasta,
The number is 25.
25, 20 for
Well,
their youth and 5,000 for the Doers and Dreamers, which was, I think, a good point that Danny had said, to specify that 5,000 for Doers and Dreamers.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, let's just start with this.
Discussion. Councillor Albright.
I guess I just look at this figure and I think, you know, we talk about shared services and we talk about the importance of working together. And I know this is a big ask and I know that it's a lot of money that's not budgeted, but if we're gonna do this right, it just, I guess in my mind, I'm looking at this and marketing is not my thing, you know, but I understand what she tried to tell us, like, we need to get on this now and not wait. And if we want to make this successful, why are we hesitating, is my question. Why are we holding back? Why aren't we going in full force and the 4 units working together to do this? Because we've talked already about shared services. And this is a perfect opportunity for us to do so. We will see benefits, not necessarily as much as some other municipalities, but we definitely will see benefits. And I guess I just listen to the discussion and think, why aren't we jumping on board? Maybe there's something I don't know, though, right? That's what I'm wondering. What is it that I'm missing?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I guess it's mostly been cleared up. I didn't really understand what his motion was, but is the 35 like pie in the sky ask, or is it more like 25, more in line with what the job can actually get done with? If they got 100,000 versus 104, like, I don't know I wish I would have asked that while she was here, but because generally organizations tend to ask for more than what they need, knowing they're going to get less anyhow. But I don't know if that's the case here, and it probably would have never been answered. But so, yeah, I'm all for giving them a pretty good chunk of change in funding. I just don't know exactly what the right number is. But I'm going to add this comment now before I lose the mic. Next year, when it comes time for funding for YASTA, if there's not some kind of a formula or something set up, so I don't have to watch an episode like I had to watch the town of Yarmouth the other day when they were discussing issues. That was basically embarrassing, like the way they acted towards other municipalities, and I don't want to get into that blame game, so we got to get some kind of a structure set up. So, but for this emergency funding, I'm on board, but I just haven't decided on what the right number should be.
Okay, thank you.
I might be able to answer part of that question. No matter what we give, it will be spent. Because there'll always be opportunities to market the region. And the other thing we don't know is the town and the municipality of Clare have not made a decision. So I would have strong suspicions that these numbers are higher than they need to be, and perhaps are all-inclusive. There are unknowns around the provincial funding piece that could help this process.
After election.
After the election. We don't know what other partners will actually come in at. If they come in lower, that 35 for Argyle might in fact be everything that they need in order to accomplish all of this list, right? I mean, obviously, if they end up getting less than $140,000, there are going to be cuts here. And it's probably going to be trade shows, I suspect.
Yeah.
One less
Yeah.
trade show, or maybe 2, or maybe 1 less person going, or, there are ways to kind of cut back. But, so I don't know, I really can't answer that question for Julie, but I know that that's kind of the challenge that she's facing, and
Yeah.
In terms of the number.
I know it's not easy for her with, dealing with 4 council.
Discuss numbers a little bit more before you put the motion out there. So,
Well,
of course,
we'll
it
see.
could be-
What can we say?
Just, that's all right, let's keep discussion going. Councillor LeBlanc?
Yeah, I'll answer my question.
Oh,
That's
okay.
fine.
Muse?
Same thing. I wondered what the other units, if anybody else had,
There's one that has made a decision.
The town will be tomorrow, I believe, or the next day, and I can say that the municipality of Yarmouth did the full amount, no conditions.
No conditions, regardless what we give,
Yeah.
or anybody else. Okay. Surratt?
I'd just like to add on that I think we have to stand on our own 2 feet, and what the other want to do, it's up to them. But whatever we decide, hey, if we're on board, we're on board, no matter what anybody else gives. We make our decision here. This is what we want to do. We're a team, so let's make up our mind. If it's 15, if it's 20, 25, we go. What the other units want to do, it's up to them. But like Nicole said, and I agree with her 100%, hey, this is a big thing. DCS said it also, when he was in October, he said the ferry was the big issue. Hey, let's do our part, whatever it is.
Thank you. LeBlanc?
Okay, I changed my mind, sorry. I guess what I'm getting at is, just by a little bit of experience with marketing and the tourism industry, you can budget what you want, you can always spend 10 times as much as that. So any amount we give here, I can guarantee is going to be spent. I think it's nice to see that the municipality of Yarmouth did contribute the full amount. As Councillor Surratt pointed out, we are our own municipality and we make our own decisions. But in this certain case here, I've never seen a community come together and fight for something so much as we did for this ferry. Not just our community, the surrounding communities. One thing, sort of off topic, I guess, but making my point. I'm getting a lot of feedback from my community that the municipality of Argyll is spending money in Yarmouth and in Yarmouth and in Yarmouth. And to some extent, I actually do agree. And in the near future, you might see me being a little more neglective to spend money outside of our municipality. But I don't think this one's the case.
This is not spending money.
No. Sorry. I know this
But
is
anyway.
going to Yasta, which is
Yeah.
Yarmouth and Acadian Shores. I'm aware of that. I
Yeah.
should have pointed that out.
Yeah.
But I think they're asking for 35. Yes, there may be, there's probably some padding in there, especially Alain pointed out to the conferences. I don't so much agree with those, but given the fact that I've seen how tourism operates, and the more you advertise yourself, the better it is going to be in the end for you. So although there's a time and place, I think this is the time to put our money where our mouth is. It's been too long of a fight. I think if Yarmouth wouldn't and the surrounding areas wouldn't have gave the feedback they did to the provincial government cutting the ferry, we wouldn't be having to make this decision here today. We can't just thank the province for getting the ferry back and then not put our own money where our mouth is. I'd support the full amount.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Are we ready to vote?
And it's for 25.
Correct.
That's for 25.
I'm in favor of 35 on this one.
So we should call the question.
The question's been called for. All those in favor of the motion, to give in 25,000, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay?
Yeah.
Nay. Motion is defeated. Okay. Yes, Councillor
I'd like to
Surratt?
make a motion that we give the full amount, $35,125, towards the ferry, and to be sure that the $5,000 go to the Doers and Dreamers. That's my motion.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Do we
Call
need a
second.
legal opinion?
No? On what?
Well, I think that's what they were talking about.
There's no, we just defeated a motion, we just had, somebody made a new motion, do we have a seconder?
Nicole seconded.
Second, Nicole Albright?
On the motion for the
Yes.
condition of the Doers and Dreamers, because you're giving the full amount, well, I guess that's not true. I was gonna say you don't have to say that, but you don't know what the others are gonna do. So I would suggest that it's still appropriate. You could still indicate your priority to have Doers and Dreamers done this year in the motion.
Okay.
Sorry. Doesn't matter.
Oh, we ready for the question? Question's been called for. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion carried.
Guy, you're the first person in 22 years I've seen vote against your own motion.
Well, you know, it happens. People make motions. People make motions and second motions to have a discussion sometimes. I've seen that before, but, okay. Now, we had another item here, bylaw. We can't, do we have to table that?
That's,
No, we can do it here.
Calvin should.
Calvin can come in now.
Yeah.
I was going crazy. He was there. Said it was moving that bill.
Yeah, the bylaw, we can make a decision here tonight if we want to. If you're willing to take the time and discuss it, I guess, or is there anything to?
Why not?
Huh?
Why not?
Okay,
I think the only thing that might cause some confusion is the fee structure and whether you want first, second, third, and how that looks.
yeah.
and whether you want to work that out tonight or whether you want staff to come back and provide you that is entirely your call.
I would just like to say that I felt that the motion that was, the noise bylaw that was there with the fine of 200 to 2,000, to me, we've only had one person that came in the room and discussed, she thought it would be higher. I mean, it depends on the councillors here. I thought there was nothing wrong with the bylaw. We've only had one person saying something. It's not like we had 10 or 50. I say, well, let's keep it like it is and let's vote on the bylaw to approve it. I think, do we have to vote on that?
Their motion would have to be made for it to be.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the noise bylaw. If you can give a second.
You know, as,
As
with a few minor
as
changes
presented
there.
With one change with the speakers or?
Yeah,
Was that?
as well as the notation for the farm legislation.
Yes, yes, right, yeah. Okay. Do we have a seconder? Okay.
Richard?
I don't know if I agree with that. I kind of like the idea of putting it up a little bit higher so that we, you know, I guess to quote our dog bylaw, to have a little bit more bite in the bylaw, because I'm still, you know, pretty much worried about how we're going to enforce this. You know, it is, it'll be an uphill battle to enforce the noise bylaw, but maybe if the penalties or the fines or whatever you want to call them are a little bit higher, that prospective businesses, you know, may want to oblige a little bit more anyway.
Well,
A little bit more.
to
Thank you.
Really, what we can do is just change the bigger number. There's a minimum fine. You don't have to start at the minimum, right?
I think she, oh, sorry.
Charette?
Just to add on, I guess, and maybe being the devil's advocate to what Calvin said, which I agree with some of what Calvin said. What about if, let's face it, how many people would know about this bylaw until they get caught? A lot of people won't even know anything about it. So let's say that somebody had some music on wide open at midnight, and finally somebody comes in and said, you know, did you know this was against our bylaws? And the guy said, no. Well, here's $500 because you've done this. I think it would be better if you had $200. Okay, I won't do it again, I'll pay you $200. If it was, you know, he didn't know. That's probably a point I'm making, I guess that's all.
Our practice in terms of
Is a warning
bylaw
first?
enforcement is a warning. What we typically do is with dog bylaws, if the dog is running around, we take the dog bylaw and we deliver it to the home. And that's the first step. Unless they're at large and fierce and dangerous, then we take more corrective
I
action.
get you.
Yep, so we would do the same as you would in that instance. The other thing, and just in the interest of moving it to one direction or another, we can easily change that top number and by policy do first, second, third offense. That could be done at a future date. If it's a priority of yours, you could do it later, or you could just leave it like this, or you could just increase that to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to respect the interests of the residents. It's your call. But the policy could address how that offense actually, how those fines actually get executed. You could do that by policy.
There's no doubt, though, that a court of
competent jurisdiction would not accept that the first fine would be more than $200 at any given time, even though by policy, let's say you say it's 500. Well,
That's
I don't
correct.
think that would fly.
No.
So it would be if you say at 200, but if you increase the top number, yeah, then you could say, okay, we will be seeking on a regular basis for a first offense $200. But if we're within, if it's $4,000, that's the maximum. The second offense we will be looking for is $1,500, and the third offense would be, you know, 35, and the last would be 4 or whatever. Yeah. So you could probably not convince a judge to seek to find someone more than $200 for a first offense. I would find that to be quite difficult.
Is that right? Okay, thank you. So we have a mover. Do we have a second?
Yes, we do.
Yes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carried. Okay, another one. Next meeting, yes, election day, our scheduled meeting. Do we want to move to one meeting for October on the 15th or a week later and just have one for the month? Or what do you think? That we can't have a meeting on election night? I don't think.
So we
Yes,
have,
Deputy.
thank you. Councillor Muse, you're for sure aren't going to be here. You're a returning officer, so you won't be here. And so how many others are, I guess, implicated that wouldn't be here?
I'll be away on a conference.
Okay.
actually, But
Right.
nothing to do with the election.
Yeah.
I like to watch you on TV,
Yeah.
but this is my responsibility. I would rather see a new date.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
in
Huh? Yeah.
I guess in the interest of political, because that's what we're involved in, and we do partner with our colleagues from the province, probably be best that we watch the election on TV or wherever we're going to be, and then that we proceed maybe another date for do business here municipally, so.
Agreed. Surratt?
Molson.
Okay. All right. So do we want to change it to the next Tuesday?
I'm
All
all
right.
set with that.
Do we need a motion, I suppose?
Yeah, the only other matter would be whether you feel that you need two meetings or one based on the fact that you've moved it down a week, you could combine the two, or just not mess with that and call the 15th and the last of October, have two meetings in October. You have that option as well, one or two.
I suggest we have it for the 15th, if that's the third, that's the third?
It's the week after.
Yeah.
Week after, and assess it at the end of that meeting, whether we need another one in October, or wait.
Good plan.
Or we could start the meeting earlier.
Yep.
Necessary.
When's the results? Before 9? Yeah, I know what you're
We
saying.
should probably check our calendars on the 15th to make sure we don't have other committees and meetings. I don't have one, but.
I'm a Wednesday, so Thursday.
I think I saw something today, an email coming today, something for the 15th. I think it was a daytime something.
Shared services meeting.
Yes, right. That's right. Yeah, I got it here. All right. Yeah, so, oh, LeBlanc.
Would that be the meeting that we'd be deciding on the fall grants?
Grants organizations?
Yeah, no,
It would be the end of September.
the end of September?
Yeah.
24th. I think one meeting would be fine then. Unless-
Okay, but we should entertain a motion
Oh, right.
to have the meeting on the 15th, right? I think Richard had a good idea.
I'd like to move that we have the meeting on the 15th at 6:30, and I guess with the CAO knows if we need another one or not, but no, my motion is that we have the meeting on the 15th at 6:30.
Thank you. All heard the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now, number 10 is correspondence and for information, Safer Senior Activity Report, Counter-Terrorism Response, Department of Property Inspection Report, Lower East Pubnico Rural Mailbox Safety Review. Did you have anything to discuss on that? No?
Nobody's opposing to what they're doing, so.
Yeah. Western Counties Library Annual Report and the Proposed Development Agreement Notification. Then we go to financial requests, district community grants. I guess some of these have been, we need to do these all separately, right? Okay, first one is St. Gabriel's Cemetery Committee. Again, our councillor is not here.
Do we wait for that one?
Yes.
At least they have an amount this time.
Yeah.
I can move it, I think everyone does.
We should be able to.
If we have the amount.
Well, we can do it, it's up to us, but normally we do it as the councillors here, but I think,
It is addressed to him.
yeah,
It's not, it didn't come directly to the municipality.
it's not supposed to.
You should
Our
know.
community grants is supposed to be a letter to the councillor, right?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favour signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. The Jardin des Petits. That's, use and use.
What's, is the amount here?
There was no amount there, but they've already got the money.
Yeah, what we did with the summer is they were ratifying now, it's
Yeah,
250.
yeah,
250, we were all.
Yeah.
yes, okay,
Yeah.
right. Okay, thank you. All those in favour signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Club Social des Îles.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. St. Joseph's Parish.
So moved.
All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
I mean, if they've already been paid out, why can't we do them with one big lump?
They're not all, I don't think they've all been, are they?
Just the last one.
Anyway,
It's the last one, yeah.
the last, oh, just the last one, you say?
That's what the-
Oh,
Chris said.
okay.
Last one's fine.
Can we do them as a lump sum? Only take us a minute. Paroisse Sainte-Famille.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favour, aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Restoration Committee, Arcade Baptist Historic Church.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Mount Pleasant Cemetery.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Lower Argyle Harbour View Cemetery Committee.
Moved.
All those in favour signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Club des Audacieux. All those in favour, aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. And the last one. Come on. Pardon? The Belleville School Breakfast Program, okay, yes.
It's $500.
$500, okay. All those in favour approving that one signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Notice of motion by councillors. Anybody want to give a notice of motion for a future meeting? If not, we'll go to question period. Questions from the audience, from the general public, or the media?
Generally.
None, okay. I guess we'll have to entertain a motion to go in camera.
So moved.
All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, we're in camera. Won't be long.